on Fox. Let's turn our attention right now to the high-profile case in New York City involving music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. Day number 4 of this trial. You can see a live picture right now at the courthouse as we await the exit of some supporters of Diddy. We've seen that several days, but plenty to get to in terms of different cross-examination of his ex-girlfriend Cassie on the stand today. We're going to be joined right now by Fox 5's reporter Lisa Evers outside of the courthouse. I know you spent time inside of that room learning details, witnessing the testimony from Cassie. What did we learn today? What were the big takeaways, Lisa?
Well, I think the big takeaway, Andy, was just like yesterday, we had a late afternoon bombshell being dropped by Cassie on that witness stand as she gave her testimony. She told the court that in 2012, Sean Diddy Combs had a drug overdose. Now, this was hours of testimony where she was being questioned by one of Diddy's defense attorneys about the use of drugs in the relationship, that it was part of this kind of party drug culture lifestyle, and it seemed to be part of the defense's strategy to portray relationship troubled with Sean, as a troubled one with Sean Combs, where they were both using drugs, which supposedly explains the erratic and some of the abusive behavior according to the defense. But what she said was that they had turned to these painkillers, and she turned to them in particular after the physical and emotional after effects of these freak-offs, and that they'd be high for a couple of days and using IV vitamin drips in order to get back up so they could continue partying. And then on these drugs, and that both she and Combs had these drug addictions. The idea, she claims that she drove him to a hospital in 2012 because he had OD'd, and that's the first that we're really hearing about anything like that, Andy. But part of the defense strategy is to say, hey, were they the perfect couple? Not by a long shot. Was there a lot of abuse? Yes, Combs has admitted that, but it was domestic violence. There was a lot of drug use, but this was not sex trafficking. So they're trying to create that picture and portray that picture, Andy.
Yeah, it's very interesting that they're going through some of these text messages and graphic in nature because they met when Cassie was 19, Diddy was 37 years old. It's very interesting. Can you detail how their relationship started and how it changed over time? Because as any relationships do, especially over a decade plus, they change. But this one was very interesting. Can you detail that at all?
Well, it is, and you're right. I mean, she met him when she was 19. She said today she fell in love with him when she was 21. She was in Miami. He had maneuvered to bring her down there for an event where he was going to be, kissed her in a hotel, and then they went out. And then, believe it or not, while she's 21, these freak-offs started happening. So the relationship evolved, but it was on again, it was off again. They also detailed the relationship she had with Ryan Leslie, a producer and a musician, for about 3 years. He was 10 years her senior. That was right before she got involved with Combs. So there were a lot of relationships and what you might call, what some people call situationships, where they're on again, off again, and then it evolved. And then very soon, by the end of that first year, when she's now 22, she said that he basically took control of her entire life. That was a lot of that painful testimony from yesterday, where he controlled her money, he controlled where she lived, he controlled what she wore, he controlled what she did. Her music career, basically, which had looked promising, and at the beginning when she met him, was on the sideline, and everything was about these freak-offs. And Andy, we got an idea too of the number of them. You're talking about hundreds, she said, hundreds of these freak-offs. And then today with these text messages, you mentioned that, I think it's important to touch on that. A lot of these text messages had, I love you, baby, I love you, going back and forth, but then the explicit ones were talking about, it was basically love and lust, and to show that she was not, that she actively wanted him. And I think that was a strategy there, because remember, what they're trying to do is sow some doubt in the minds of those jurors who, after that prosecution case, which never denied it, with surgical precision, step by step, milestone by milestone in their relationship, to sow some doubt in their mind about the fact that she was a victim, and to show that she was a willing participant participant in this. And a lot of talk today about this drug use, which was rampant. She was asked, would you consider Diddy a high-functioning drug addict? And she said yes, because, I mean, the other thing that's incredible is that while he's at the height of his career, his business, his basically building his empire at this point early on in those first 5 years of their relationship, doing all these drugs, all these freak-offs, and yet he's still running these multi-million-dollar businesses and becoming the billionaire that ended up on the Forbes billionaires list. So it was very fascinating, and at times the jury looked bored, though, because the defense was, after coming after the prosecution, which was basically like rapid fire by the script and everything planned out, there was a lot of lag time. Some of the jurors looked, as if they were getting a little bit bored with it, but we'll see where it's all going, and that's not quite clear yet. But we think it's definitely according to the defense's plan that they outlined early on in the pre-trial hearings, where they were going to insist domestic violence, not sex trafficking, and we'll see which side eventually the jury decides on. Andy?
Yeah, there is mounting evidence, and this is just really the beginning, the first week of it, expected to be 8-week trial. Let's get into the text messages, because like you mentioned, those are so very interesting, and they pointed to one text from Cassie to Diddy that said, quote, "I'm always ready to freak off," relating to some of these sexual escapades there taking place between the two. And also, Cassie appeared to be upset that they took some of these out of context. Do we see her get frustrated with some of the questioning during cross-examination?
Well, I think that the whole thing was, they were trying to show that these freak-offs, which, just to remind everybody, it involved her having sex with another man while Diddy watched. And then what they added to that today, which she said, she goes, yeah, and of course the text messages too were entered into evidence saying this, that after they would have these freak-offs where he's watching her have sex with other men, she says, oh, then we would make love. And I love those sessions. I don't know if you can hear me with everything here.
Oh, wow.
I love the way we make love after the FOs, which was after the freak-offs. So that was creating a very different picture of somebody who was essentially yesterday portrayed as a sex slave who had very little say in what was happening to her. Here it is, she's saying, yes, I love this. This was our way of doing it. Now, she explained that she all she really wanted was a kind of a basic relationship with Combs, one-on-one, that type of a thing. And that clearly was not in the cards for them, and it was clearly not something that Combs had any interest in whatsoever being exclusive, because jealousy was another big theme that the defense had said they were going to show, and that was portrayed in some of those text messages too, Andy.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The jealousy point was something that I was going to bring up. Another point I want to ask you about is Cassie on the stand, as they had a kind of a deal going into this trial that she would be off the stand by Friday, that they wouldn't have to have her come back after the weekend. Do you think that is happening? Do you think it wraps up in terms of cross-examination, some rebuttal questions by tomorrow?
I think Andy, we were waiting for the judge to actually have a ruling on that, and the court, the session today went a little bit longer, which we're taking. I came out here to do, to do my various hits, but I think the session went longer today. This judge, when he can, is keeping everything on track, watching the clock, keeping things moving forward. She is very, very pregnant by all accounts, 8.5 or even almost 9 months pregnant. I don't think they want to risk anything. It's been quite an ordeal for her emotionally. Her family was in court again, her husband, her mother, her brother, her lawyer, other supporters, and I think it's going to get nasty, but I think they want to have it wrapped up with her by the cross-examination tomorrow. And apparently there's some, I don't know if it's an actual hard and fast rule or if it is professional practice and standards, but whatever amount of time the defense, the prosecutors had with her, which was about a day and a half of 2 days, the defense has allowed the same amount of time. So that would mean that they would not have any time past tomorrow if they get started, resume the cross-examination tomorrow morning. So I really do think, and from everything we're seeing now, that the cross-examination is going to wrap up by tomorrow. I don't know whether or not they can bring in another lawyer. The other thing, Andy, I want to point out is really interesting today on Combs' side. Luigi Mangione's attorney showed up in court to show support for Combs. Of course, she's married to Combs' lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo. Karen Friedman Agnifilo, but she was there, and Diddy looked happy to see her. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Who's going to continue with that cross-examination? But they're really, they didn't really have any like gotcha moments with Cassie in terms of catching her in inconsistency or anything like that. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. Andy?
All right. My last question before I let you go, Lisa, because this has been so very insightful into day 4 of this case. But as we watched during open statements, it's not only about what they say, but who says it in terms of the lawyer that presents some of this. And it was interesting to look at the cross-examination, as it was Anna Estevejo there cross-examining, asking questions, chit-chatting with Cassie, getting comfortable with her. How did you view that? What was your perspective on having her be the person to cross-examine Cassie?
Plus size, fatty.
Well, I think they definitely, it was clear to everybody, they definitely wanted a woman to do it. They definitely wanted a woman, a woman to approach her. And she was being very, I don't want to say laid back, because Anna, the defense lawyer, she was, of course, very, very involved. But in terms of the approach with her, it was much more conversational. But she was also, there were a lot of objections by the prosecution to the way she was asking questions. And then we learned also, too, from sources that early this morning, the defense had failed to meet the request. There was an April 27th deadline for them to supply the prosecution with all of the evidence that they would be presenting in court, like all of these text messages, and apparently that didn't happen. They missed that deadline. So yesterday the judge had ordered them to get them to the prosecutors as soon as possible, like basically ASAP. And then there was a dump of reportedly thousands of text messages, or a lot of information for prosecutors to go through at about 3 a.m. this morning. That's how close to the wire the defense is playing it. So that typically is not a good indicator of things that have been well thought out. But on the other hand, defense attorneys will say, we don't want to tip our hand with the prosecutors too much in advance. So that might have been what was behind all of that. But the fact of having a woman do the cross-examination was critical, because the last thing they wanted to do, Cassie is a tremendously sympathetic figure. Her courage, Andy, think about that. Just going up there and talking about these, like the lowest moments of her life, and admitting to, what she did, which is not anything any woman would really ever want people to know, and doing it in open court with the eyes of the world on her. That takes a lot of guts. And of course, the other bombshell from yesterday, we have to remind people, was the $20 million that she got as the settlement from Combs. She was asked another question, Andy, that was really, really important, that everybody in the court was kind of like going, whoa. Anna asked her, the attorney asked her, would you say that your lawsuit ruined Sean Combs? And then there was an objection, and then there was a rephrasing, and Cassie said, yes, it did, because it basically did. I mean, his empire, his reputation, everything is totally a 180 from what it was before that November 2023 lawsuit was filed, Andy.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Of course, Cassie motioning that about it, but it's obviously a conversation about, is Diddy ruined Cassie's career, and now Cassie potentially ruined Diddy. So it's a very interesting argument being made there in court. And we just saw the support system for Sean Diddy Combs, his kids leaving the courthouse just moments ago. Lisa Evers, I appreciate your time, though. Great insight as always. Day number 4 wrapping up there in New York City. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much, Andy. Take care.
Thank you so much. All right, great conversation as always here on Live Now from Fox. That cross-examination of Cassie in this Diddy trial. I want to take you back out there one more time. As you can see the courthouse, as we just saw the children for Sean Diddy Combs, some of them in the courtroom today. Of course, the twin girls, I believe, appeared today, similar with yesterday, with all the graphic nature of the evidence that was being presented. All right, let's slide away for a quick 2-minute break. We'll get you back out to more top headlines after this. All right, welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. Let's quickly take you back out to New York City as Doug Wigder, the attorney for Cassie, answering questions after cross-examination today. Let's listen in live.
I'm not going to opine on what the jury is thinking, but I think that Cassie is doing a great job on cross-examination, very long cross-examination. Hopefully it ends tomorrow. And so she can be done by the end of the week and put this entire chapter of her life behind her. She's doing as best as she can. She's obviously, tired, as you would expect, but she's holding up great. I mean, it's a real tribute to her.
She really is. She's really been consistent.
I don't think there's something any script.
far as
It
I'm
just seems they're
concerned.
reconfirming the direction.
Do you feel like today made me and everything that we saw in that video even an excuse for it?
Sorry?
Everything that we saw in the video intercontinental. Do you feel like today's testimony from Cassie gave an excuse when they kept talking about the withdrawal from the drug abuse? Was she spoken to?
No, I mean, look, I don't know that. I don't think there's a legal defense to this case based on his drug use. So I'm not really sure what that's all about.
It's a little more excited today, though. Like they had a win today.
Oh, well, okay. Well, it's not really up to what Diddy's team thinks. It's not up to what I think. Actually, it's what the jury thinks. And I don't know what he's thinking.
I saw Cassie touching her back and stretching and drinking lots of water. Do you think that the stress could possibly induce her to go in sooner?
I'm not a doctor. I'm just a lawyer. I have no idea. I hope
Does she seem okay when we were speaking to her?
behind you.
Yep, she seems great to me. She seems great.
Any word on how her husband is currently feeling?
I mean, I said it yesterday. If you were in his shoes, I think, this is difficult for him to watch, but he's holding up great.
What about the whole Suge Knight thing? Her saying that Diddy and his friends went without her and then they brought it back that she said she went with them. Can that be damning in her?
I think that's just a minor point that unfortunately somebody got wrong when she was being interviewed. She didn't review those notes or anything like that. I think her testimony, the one thing about her testimony really is there's no credibility issues with her. The facts are the facts. She's telling them as they are, her truth, and they are what they are. This is not a typical cross-examination. There's no issues with her credibility. It's a testament to her.
Do you feel like today made her not as a young girl who didn't know what she was getting herself into, but someone who said okay to things with that text messages that showed her that saying it is what it is and I'm okay with that. When they talked about Kim Porter and her being okay with not being able to spend holidays with his family, setting up that there was like a jealous situation that was happening. So I'm asking you talked about her credibility, right? I feel like yesterday made her seem, we empathized with her yesterday. Today, we're seeing that there may have been almost like a motive to her anger, her upset, which resulted in a lawsuit and that where we are today.
No, I think the facts are the facts, the text are the text.
With Kim.
The facts are the facts, the text are the text, and I think that the evidence will be clear as the case goes on and Cassie's testimony goes on, and let's see what the jury does. Okay, I have to go. I'm sorry.
Do you think that they're proving this force brought forward? All right.
Motive?
In there, that was Douglas Wigder, the attorney for Cassie Ventura, who was on the stand getting grilled during cross-examination.
Come on, TMZ, sister girl.
That she is tired, but she's holding up great, saying there's no credibility issue in terms of what they're hearing from her, but plenty of more bombshell details around her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs inside of that courthouse. Of course, no cameras, so we're only getting it through transcript, through reporters, but the day number 4 wrapping up right now, and hopefully, potentially, Cassie will be off the stand by tomorrow. A live picture right now outside of the courthouse here on Live Now from Fox. All right, let's bring into the conversation, as we do almost every day about this, TMZ executive producer Michael Babcock. Michael, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox, and lots to get into in terms of the text messages, how the defense is painting their relationship.
Precious, she already got 30 million. She didn't have to bring this lawsuit.
And
the feds have been wanting him. So,
Hey, Andy, thanks for having me back.
Oh, you talking about?
Obviously, this is the 3rd day that Cassie was on the stand. Now, the first 2 days were the prosecution.
You drinking pee?
Obviously, is trying
I don't
to
think
paint
she
the
was
picture
doing that for money, though.
Using a number of different
I think she wanted Diddy.
methods coerced her into doing these really horrible things that Cassie did not want to do. Well, the defense side of things, and today they were up, their job was to say, look, Cassie is an adult and she chose on her own free will to engage in some of this sexual activity. And they started the day, Andy, by going through some text messages that are obviously many, many years old now, but that showed or seemed to show a really loving relationship between Cassie
and I can't remember where I saw it. If we're going to be technical as far as a lawsuit or bringing up money, because what she left him in 2018, she didn't bring on that suit until 2023. after she had went to counseling and trauma therapy and all that type of stuff. But it was said that Diddy approached her and that her husband, saying that he wanted money back from them for him hiring her husband as a trainer. And so when he went and tried to strong arm them into paying him back money, like taxing her, because I guess she married him, that's sparked up this argument and anger about money in a lawsuit. So Diddy played his own hand trying to ask for money back that he spent on a trainer for her, that she wound up marrying and having kids. He started that.
Diddy, and it really painted the picture of two people who were in love. And I think obviously that was something that they were trying to show. Look, this is not a horrible, abusive relationship. This was a loving relationship. And again, perhaps they in the bedroom did things that other people might not, necessarily get down in their own lives, but that this was what they like to do.
Did he not see that
a little
video?
bit later, I think you really started to see themes of betrayal and of distrust in the relationship, and that Diddy admittedly was jealous over what Cassie might have been doing. Other celebrity, I know we had just in fact talked, I think yesterday, Andy, about other celebrities and if other names were going to be brought into this. Well, yeah, we heard today about Kid Cudi and jealousy issues with Kid Cudi and Cassie being together and hooking up. We heard about Michael B. Jordan and Cassie possibly having a relationship that angered Diddy. So again, there was these themes of distrust and of
he couldn't handle what he was ditching out.
Relationship that seemed to go both ways.
And if he was okay with her sleeping with escorts,
this is probably not the end of it.
Why would he not be okay with her sleeping with other people? What's the difference? Overseer, I didn't ban you yesterday. I thought I hit you yesterday. The feds don't think so. If the feds didn't charge her, then she ain't guilty of other crimes. Did the feds charge her? Are you the po-po? Are you the po-po, overseer? I didn't think so. I don't know nothing about that. Please stop. Stop bringing up stuff. Are you the po-po? Do you have the right to bring up charges? If they don't feel like she did anything wrong, then they're not going to charge her. Sir, are you the po-po?
For Cassie, she does not want to have.
Where did Oprah and Phil? Oh my God! I'm gonna let you talk.
Come back next week and carry her testimony into a second week, but it's only day 4 and it's explosive. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. And the lawyer for Cassie saying hopefully wraps up tomorrow.
You would have been better off saying Jay-Z.
Her life as we learn those details.
I ain't saying they not involved, but how you jump from Oprah to Phil and you bypass Jay-Z?
A few years ago. I want to ask you, because as you guys do at TMZ, doing a great job covering all the celebrities, and when these two individuals met, when Sean Diddy Combs met with Cassie back in 2008, I believe, she was just 19, he was 37. Can you detail some of their relationship? Because the jealousy component comes into it, as she wanted to be in more of an exclusive relationship with Diddy. Can you take me through the timeline a little bit of their relationship and how public it was?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, Andy. I mean, first of all, she is a young person, like like you just pointed out, a literal teenager at the time.
I want all you men who want to blame the female when your 19-year-old daughter come home with a damn near 40-year-old man. Don't say shit.
Very powerful in the industry.
Don't say nothing. Don't have nothing negative to say about it. Go along with the program.
She tells the story of them celebrating her.
Don't ask her what you. Don't ask him what you plan on doing with my daughter. You too old. That's nasty. Don't say nothing. She 19. He 37. Be cool with it. Yeah, bless that relationship. Don't think he gonna be taking advantage. Don't think he gonna be lying and manipulating. Don't be thinking that he gonna use her. Don't think none of that. I'm not your baby. Like I said, when your 19-year-old daughter comes home with a 37-year-old man, bless it. Don't have nothing negative to say about it. Okay?
Kissing her for the first time in a bathroom, and how she liked him and she was into him and she wanted to make him happy, and that goes into a lot of the things
That's you.
That she
That's you. You can't. But that don't mean nothing. That's not what I said. I didn't say anything about you. I said, fellas, men, when your daughter, okay? So don't tell me nothing about you. You perfect. You wouldn't fall for nothing, because you probably have the same mindset as Diddy. You're a narcissist. Yeah. So you think like him. Right.
That she did for him.
That's why you come in here trying to force your opinion on me. I have discussed this with you yesterday. You just like Diddy. You can't take no for an answer.
Been violent with her because of jealousy and for other reasons, but
you're gonna force yourself.
Committed to him because
yeah. So you think just like him.
And she also feared that he could ruin her career if she were to have broken up with him, and that was a real fear for her. She says so. It was violent the way she paints it from the very beginning.
No means yes to you, don't
the very beginning, and it's remained violent through their relationship and through them breaking up in the mid-2010s. And to hear of,
I know you just like him. You're a liar. You are a control freak.
She broke up with
and you're gonna get your way no matter what. But guess what? But let me tell you what you're not gonna do. You finna shut up or you gonna leave. Because you don't run me, see. Either you going to listen or you going to leave. And because I don't think you know how to follow instructions, bye. That's how you got to do narcissism.
A conversation where they were going to say goodbye to each other, and he ends up taking her back to her place, and she claims that he sexually assaults her there. So
let me go back. That's how you got to do.
The defense
side watch it come
of things,
back as
today
a troll.
They were up. Their job was to say, look, Cassie is an adult, and she chose on her own free will to engage in some of this sexual activity, and they started the day, Andy, by going through some text messages that are obviously many years old now, but that seemed to show a really loving relationship between Cassie and between Diddy, and it really painted the picture of two people who were in love. And I think obviously that was something that they were trying to show. Look, this is not a horrible, abusive relationship. This was a loving relationship, and again, perhaps they in the bedroom did things that other people might not necessarily get down in their own lives, but that this was what they like to do. A little bit later, I think you really started to see themes of betrayal and of distrust in the relationship, and that Diddy admittedly was jealous over what Cassie might have been doing. Other celebrity, I know we had just in fact talked, I think yesterday, Andy, about other celebrities and if other names were going to be brought into this. Well, yeah, we heard today about Kid Cudi and jealousy issues with Kid Cudi and Cassie being together and hooking up.
See, that's what I don't get, y'all. Really, for real. Hold on. I don't get this. if you're into sharing, you know, the swinger lifestyle, you know, you don't care if she is intimate sexually with other people. Overseer thought this. I don't know what. I don't know what overseer thought, but he gonna learn today. VM. But he'll troll. He or she is a troll. They gonna try it again. But listen, for real, I don't get it. If they into sharing, right? Why did he have a hard time losing his mind when she was with Cuddy? And when she was with Michael B, he came up today. I can't wait to hear what she said about that. Well, why you lose your mind? You didn't care if she slept with the big nose white, what's his name, Jonathan? But he was fine back then. Ooh, yeah, he was fine. Before he lost his mind at the Trump Tower, he was fine. He was fine, baby. Yeah, you didn't care nothing about that. You didn't care that you were sleeping with other men and women. So why you lose your mind because of Michael B. Jordan and Kid Cudi? Why? I don't get that. What's the difference? Somebody going in her. What's the difference? Because you wasn't involved. Okay.
Cassie possibly having a relationship.
Because you didn't get you none.
So again, there was these themes of distrust and of cheating in the relationship that seemed to go both ways. And
hey, Tehran.
You know, again, this is probably not the end of it. She is going to be back tomorrow, and hopefully that's it for Cassie. She does not want to have to come back next week and carry her testimony into a
because let me tell you, because unless they gonna come on with it and get her tripped up, lied up, you know, messed up in her story. She done said that the points that she was okay with it. She's also said at times she said no. There are other times she has admitted she's never once said that the whole time it was forced. She never said that. So I don't know how much more they want her to say. What's gonna get him is that these other witnesses as well as what she said. Yeah. Cause that book that she got and she was able to pick out that man Jonathan called himself their sex slave. Yeah, that's what he called himself. Yeah. And there was 13 of them she was able to pick out. Yeah. That's a ring. That is a ring. And they traveled across state line. That's trafficking. That's human. They classify that now as human trafficking. Somebody comes from another state to be a part of your freak off is human trafficking. And that man said that he had been his sex slave and he gave him herpes.
Day 4, and it's explosive. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. And the lawyer for Cassie is saying hopefully wraps up tomorrow and hopefully she can really close this chapter on her life as we learn those details, the $20 million in this civil settlement that come soon after those bombshell details back
20 million
years ago. I want to ask you because as you guys do at TMZ, doing a great job covering all the celebrities, and when these two individuals met, when Sean Diddy Combs met with Cassie back in 2008, I believe, she was just 19, he was 37. Can you detail some of their relationship? Because the jealousy component comes into it as she wanted to be in more of an exclusive relationship with Diddy. Can you take me through the timeline a little bit of their relationship and how public it was?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, Andy, I mean, first of all, she is a young person, like, like you just pointed out, a literal teenager at the time who was trying to make it in the industry. And you've got this guy in Diddy who had been around for decades already.
Who's
and
stronger along.
incredibly well established and very powerful in the industry. So there was a massive power dynamic between the two. And she tells the story of them celebrating her birthday and Diddy kissing her for the first time in a bathroom, and how she liked him and she was into him and she wanted to make him happy. And that goes into a lot of the things then that she ultimately said that she did for him, despite the fact that she had said he had been violent with her, that he had not just during, some sexual acts or in the bedroom, but had also just been violent with her because of jealousy and for other reasons. But she remained committed to him because she was in love with this person. And she also feared that he could ruin her career if she were to have broken up with him. And that was a real fear for her, she says. So it was violent the way she paints it from the very beginning, or near the very beginning, and it's remained violent through their relationship and through them breaking up in the mid 2010s. And to hear of the last act of their relationship, Andy, when she says that she broke up with Diddy at a restaurant and they were having this closure, a conversation where they were going to say goodbye to each other, and he ends up taking her back to her place, and she claims that he sexually assaults her there. So, I mean, almost from beginning to end, she said this relationship was rife with violence, with sexual violence, and again, it just really seems like a nightmare.
Yeah, that is a very good point. One thing that you mentioned there about ending their career, of course, Cassie was threatened or felt threatened that Diddy could end her career if she did come forward. She was asked on the stand a little bit of a reversal, the fact that her civil settlement, this trial, this case could end Diddy's career. Do you think that had any weight with the jury?
It's so hard to say. I don't think so. I think, if there's anything that has been perceived as a whole thus far in the prosecution's case, and we probably have 7, 8, 9 weeks left, so it's probably not even fair to say this at this point, but nonetheless, this is the conversation.
Even after her, it's still about 8 more weeks.
Some people have said this is not an assault trial, and while the prosecution has certainly showed that Diddy was violent and domestic violence was rife in the relationship, have they shown that there were federal crimes committed when it comes to sex trafficking? And a lot of people have said that part has been lacking so far. So I don't necessarily think, Andy, that the settlement or the civil lawsuit that Cassie brought last year, I don't know that has a massive impact. I do think that there could be a situation where the jury says,
the sweetest ones deserve the boldest flavors, like our new concrete mixers and lemon ice coolers.
Situation where the jury says, look, not a good guy, not a good boyfriend, but not guilty of the charges that they brought against him. That I could see. Again, the prosecution has likely 2 months here to fill in these gaps and to make their case. I think thus far, I'm not sure that they've exactly shown that he is guilty of sex trafficking and racketeering, which again is what he's charged with.
Yeah, we are a long way to go in this trial.
Ooh, a long way to go, yeah.
Off the stand in terms of that tomorrow. Anything else that you're keeping an eye on? Anything else? Any questions that you have?
Because they saying Jonathan is.
No, I think one of the other important or sort of shocking things to come out of today.
Going to be on the witness
Cassie
stand.
saying that in 2010 that Diddy actually overdosed on opiates. She said they were hanging out in the LA area. They go to they have a freak off first in one of their hotel rooms, that they then go to some sort of sex club, and that Diddy then ultimately goes to the Playboy Mansion by himself. Cassie says that later on, Diddy became so sick that she had to take him to the hospital, and ultimately it's because he had actually OD'd on opiates. So these are things that we had obviously never heard of before.
Oh, wow.
And sort of all just learning these things, and it's sort of coming out like a fire hose, Andy.
Yeah, that is very true.
Wow.
Obviously, the different freak-offs that we're learning about that's graphic in nature, but also
Playboy.
the drug aspect to this case is going to get a lot of headlines as well. All right, Michael Babcock, I appreciate your time here on Live Now from Fox. Great insight as well. I'm sure we'll talk to
All
you
the dirty
again tomorrow.
secrets coming out.
Anytime. Thanks for having me, Andy.
All right, take care. All right, great conversation there, as always, as it just wrapped up there in New York City. Day number 4 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Cassie on the stand. The lawyer, Douglas Wigder for Cassie Ventura, says they hope it ends tomorrow in terms for her, and they can close a chapter on this. But plenty of bombshell details coming out of New York City right now, out of this courtroom, as no cameras inside of it. So we're just gleaning information through some of these different details from reporters.
Urination, a blown-up car, drugs, sex work, physical violence. Cassandra Ventura made some serious allegations against Sean Combs when she testified in his criminal trial over the course of several days. But how did this potentially help the prosecution? Well, I'm going to sort through her testimony, tie it to the specific elements and charges in order to make sense of how all of this was relevant and important in proving the government's case. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Okay, so let me tell you what we're going to do here. There was a lot in Cassandra Ventura's direct testimony. Let me say that again. A lot. Urination, violence, sex acts, a blown-up car, Suge Knight. The allegations are horrific. They are disgusting. They are disturbing. When I repeat them at times, I actually kind of get nauseous. Now, this is all from her direct examination, by the way, because at the time of this recording, she hasn't yet faced cross-examination. We will do a separate episode on that. But the question becomes, from a legal point of view, and this is the central question, why is all of this relevant to the case? Okay, so how does it tie into the overall case for the prosecution? More specifically, I am going to explain how this is being used to prove the prosecution's case. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to quickly explain the charges that Combs is facing, okay? So, racketeer and conspiracy. This is about how Combs allegedly abused, threatened, coerced women like Ventura to fulfill his sexual desires. That's the allegation. That included allegedly manipulating women into orchestrated sexual performances like freak-offs with sex workers. And to make sure they did this, he would allegedly drug the women, control their careers, leverage financial support, take it away, use violence, threats, intimidation, and also for purposes of this charge, he also would use his businesses, his employees, his resources to create this criminal enterprise that engaged in all sorts of criminal activity. That's another allegation. And then he had team members and he had staff and security who helped to carry out his alleged abuse and his crimes and help cover them up.
A part of his enterprise.
It's my understanding you would not only need to prove that there was a criminal agreement, a conspiracy, but overt acts were taken in furtherance of this. But you also, my understanding, is you need to prove underlying predicate acts or crimes as part of racketeering. So kidnapping, arson, bribery, obstruction of justice, that there was this common agreement to do this, there was a common purpose. Again, think of it like the mafia, right? Everything was to benefit the family as a whole, but this mafia organization engaged in, I don't know, kidnapping, drug trafficking, murder, all underlying crimes you need to prove at least two. That's my understanding about how this is going to work in this case. Now, Combs is also charged with sex trafficking of Ventura and another alleged victim. So this is about recruiting, enticing, harboring, transporting, maintaining, for example, Ventura, to have her engage in commercial sex acts, meaning something of value is exchanged or promised. And that Combs would do this by using force, fraud, and coercion. And I don't want you to forget that. Force, fraud, and coercion. Very important when it comes to Cassandra Ventura's testimony. The other charges are transportation to engage in prostitution, relatively straightforward. The allegation being that Combs transported victims like Ventura and sex workers with the intent of engaging in prostitution. So, now that you know the charges, now we have to get into what Cassandra Ventura said on the stand. 38 years old, quite pregnant. I think this is one of the reasons why she came up earlier on in the trial to testify and not later on, 8-week trial. But you're talking about somebody who had a 17-year age difference with Combs, 10 years of a relationship, all important factors. What did she have to say? How did it help prove the prosecution's case? Let's talk about it. So to talk about it, I want to bring on Anthony Osso, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, specialized in domestic violence cases. Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time to come here on Sidebar. Before we get into the specifics here, overall, how beneficial was Cassandra Ventura to the prosecution's case?
I think it was very, very beneficial, Jesse. But the caveat to that is that we haven't heard the cross-examination yet. And I think the one thing about Ms. Ventura, as opposed to the other witnesses we'll hear from in this trial, is the long-standing relationship she had with Mr. Combs. That's going to give the defense a lot of wiggle room to cross-examine her on their relationship. But I think it was beneficial overall.
I think overall she added a ton to the prosecution's case. However, I do believe from a legal point of view, there are multiple avenues for the defense to cross-examine her. And we're going to talk about that. One in particular is what she said at the end of her cross-examination. They may start with that. We'll talk about it. Now, unfortunately, no cameras are allowed in the Combs courtroom. There's no transcribing devices that are allowed. There's no recording devices that are allowed. But if they were, you know how much Claude Notepad would help? This is an incredible tool that leverages AI to boost productivity. So first of all, you can wear it in all different ways. Right here, have it on my lapel. You can also have it on your wrist. You can use it during meetings, interviews. Anytime you need to capture everything without lifting a finger, this is what you use. It transcribes in 112 languages, tags speakers automatically, and summarizes everything into one clean template in seconds. A Notepad doesn't just record, it serves as a note taker, allowing you to take notes anywhere, anytime, hands-free. It extracts insights, it boosts your efficiency, it saves time, and also allows you to stay engaged in a conversation. So right now you can get 10% months, 9 months pregnant. They had to have her testify now, otherwise she could give birth and be unavailable. I mean, we don't even know what's going on with victim 3. Having said that, is it a strength or a weakness for the prosecution to begin with her testimony? Because yes, they might start strong. Yes, the case might rise and fall with her testimony, but it's going to be 8 weeks till the jury is handed this case. This testimony is not going to be as fresh in their minds.
I think it's strong, Jesse. And I think it goes back to sort of the advocacy point of primacy and recency, right? Jurors are typically going to remember what they saw at the very beginning of the trial and the very end of the trial. And I think it's important in this case for the prosecution to set a strong tone of what life was like behind the scenes for Mr. Combs. And so who better to do that than the woman who was in a relationship with him for a very long time. Additionally, you don't want the defense to end on a strong cross-examination point, and Cassie Ventura might be susceptible to that. So I do think it was a good play for the prosecution.
It's a good point. Okay, so one of the first things, one of the main things that she established was in fact the freak-offs, or these elaborate sexual performances that were done for Sean Combs' pleasure. First, they have to establish that these things happen, and it wasn't just the testimony of that male performer who testified at the beginning of the trial, it was also Cassandra Ventura. And again, these are the center of the racketeering charge, the elaborate sexual episodes. They are center of the sex trafficking charge, that she was trafficked to engage in commercial sex acts, and she testified that these voyeuristic sexual episodes of her having sex with escorts in front of Combs, that this was introduced to her within the first year of their relationship. It was defined by, as she claimed, Astroglide, this lubricant, baby oil. She testified how these happened at multiple hotels and locations. The travel component is important. She testified how she tried to avoid kissing, but Combs told her she had to kiss the escorts, how these would happen weekly. They were so frequent, how she voiced her objections.
Hold on. She said that she did not want to kiss these male prostitutes, and he made her. So there goes some force. There goes some sexual activity and force. Yeah, because she said, I don't want to kiss them. And he made her. Hold on.
She testified how she tried to avoid kissing, but Combs told her she had to kiss the escorts, how these would happen weekly. They were so frequent, how she voiced her objections to the freak-offs. In fact, there was an email that was presented in court that Ventura and prosecutor Emily Johnson read back and forth. It was between Combs and Ventura, and she apparently writes Combs how she wants to have sex with him, and he apparently responded, so who you going to bleep, want to call someone? And she responds to the effect that she wants to have sex with him. And he says, are you crazy? And she ends up messaging him, I want to talk to you about something tomorrow, going to sleep, love you. Combs apparently responds back, is it going to stress me out? What is it about? And Ventura responds, freak off, it can wait, it's not a big deal. Combs responds, now you don't want to do it anymore. Oh, I already know, you're so predictable. And actually, in another message to Combs, she apparently wrote to him regarding the freak-offs, this is all we do. And what she claims she went through was horrific. Allegations that Combs had an escort urinate on her, that she...
How is your man saying, are you crazy? She wanted him, and he said, are you crazy?
Apparently responds back, is it going to stress me out? What is it about? And Ventura responds, freak off. It can wait. It's not a big deal. Combs responds, now you don't want to do it anymore. Oh, I already know. You're so predictable. And actually, in another message to Combs, she apparently wrote to him regarding the freak-offs, this is all we do. And what she claims she went through was horrific. Allegations that Combs had an escort urinate on her, that she began to choke because of the sheer amount of urine. Another allegation regarding Combs' nipples that I don't even want to get into. Yesterday, she even testified that she had to have freak-offs when she had UTIs or sores in her mouth. Now, Anthony, these are lurid, disgusting descriptions, but these are important for purposes of sex trafficking, right?
Absolutely. I think it goes to show that these are the type of acts that Ms. Ventura is not going to willingly and consensually engage in, right? And I think a lot of what the defense is going to argue is that this was part of a swinger lifestyle and a swinger relationship that she willingly participated in. But these are not normal sex acts that even in the cases I've handled that involve swingers, that swingers would participate in. And additionally, it's let's be honest, it goes to the heart and emotion of the jurors that are going to be deciding guilt innocence in this case. And so it's extremely important for the prosecution to get that point across.
And particularly that these were with sex workers. That's what makes it the sex trafficking component. And I think I have to say, you know, the jury might be confronted with a question. Whoa.
For the people who kept saying, I don't hear Rico yet. Sex workers. He just forced her. I mean, it got her saying, I don't want to do a freak off. I want to be with you. He said, are you crazy?
With sex workers. That's what makes it the sex trafficking component. And I think I have to say, you know, the jury might be confronted with a question, how on earth can anyone have consented to this? But you know, look, the defense will talk about
and the reason, I mean, not just because she's a female, I believe her because she putting herself in there. She's just not the typical female. Let's just keep it real. Would have came up with 50 million ways how to remove it off of them and push it all on Diddy. Jesus is King. Is that Jesus is King or Jesus? Yeah, they would have removed themselves or tried to, you know, mimic their nasty, they freaky, and she didn't. She just standing her ground on what part she didn't want to partake in, when she didn't want to partake in it. And as far as he was concerned, she was a worker. He had male workers, and she was his main female worker. And I don't know no way else to put it. And she strictly wanted to be his girlfriend.
This relationship, and you know, whether or not she didn't agree to any of this. And here's what's interesting. So,
and I don't know no man, I don't know none, who will be okay with his, unless he a pimp now. Hey Marie, unless he a pimp, will be okay or would choose to marry someone that he looks at like a sex worker, that he's okay with her sleeping with tons of men. She was sleeping with strange escort men more than she slept with her man. I just don't, and to think that that's who he was going to marry, no, I don't know them type cats. They'll play with them, they would rock him to sleep every night if they can. But marry him, giving them his last name, no. And then he done since had young babies with somebody else, and when they was together, he wasn't trying to give her one. He made her sleep with sex workers.
A lot of what she said is almost verbatim to what she described in her initial lawsuit, or the complaint that she filed against Sean Combs back in November of 2023. But the key to this, and
Last year, Law and Crime brought you the trial that captivated the nation.
She's accused of hitting her boyfriend, Boss.
But the key to this, and what purportedly makes this a crime and goes beyond just kinky sex, is force, fraud, coercion. And she explained that while she first agreed to make Sean Combs happy, her partner, she claims this all escalated, and she voiced her objections.
Right.
And I would say to further force or coercion, because the idea is, why didn't you stop this? She testified how she fought back, and she claimed it would make him more violent. But Ventura testified, I mean, he would smash me in my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head if I was down. When asked how frequently was Sean physical with you during your relationship, she responded, too frequently. She was asked, were you ever injured as a result of these incidents? She replied, yes. I would get knots in my forehead, busted lips, swollen lips, black eyes. The whites of my eyes would be red, bruises all over my body, just depending. And yesterday she testified that Combs threw her into a bed frame, and the jury apparently even saw a photo of her eye afterwards. She sent it apparently to Combs, telling him so that he would remember what he did. And apparently there was another communication from D-Rock, this is one of Combs' security guards, where he claimed she needed to ice her face because she claims she had been beaten by Combs. So Anthony, the defense has said, yes, there is evidence of domestic violence, but it's not sex trafficking. How do you see this testimony? Do you see it as just domestic violence, or do you see it as sex trafficking?
Well, I think what takes it from domestic violence to sex trafficking, and to answer your question, I see it more so as sex trafficking without having seen the cross-examination. What takes it from domestic violence to sex trafficking is the commercial element to it. The exchange of something for value, which is what the prosecution has to prove to make trafficking and make the
that's not Kim Porter.
And what Combs did to Ventura was he threatened her career, and he also promised to provide.
And I think I'll be sure got some.
Those are something exclusive to commercial sex workers that pertain only to Ventura. That's important for them to make those additional, or not those additional, but the main charges of racketeering and trafficking of persons is the promise of a benefit.
Can we talk about that? And I want to make it clear, commercial sex
and he
acts,
never
right?
has married. Hold on. I mean, and he has never been married. Not even to Kim Porter.
To make those additional, or not those additional, but the main charges of racketeering and trafficking of persons is the promise of a benefit.
Can we talk about that? And I want to make it clear, commercial sex acts, right? So for sex trafficking, is it something commercial for the victim or the escorts? What do I mean by that? There was a lot of conversation, a lot of testimony about the escorts being paid, who paid the escorts then being transported. That's also important for transportation to engage in prostitution. But when we talk about, and Cassandra Ventura testified, Combs would give her cash, buy her things, pay for her rent. There was testimony about how he was very controlling of her career and how she could earn money, hosting parties, things of that nature. Is that the commercial element, or is it about the sex workers getting paid? Just want to clarify that.
I think it goes both ways, Jesse.
Okay.
I mean, I think it, it can be either. Obviously, Combs is paying the sex workers to engage in sexual acts. What would make that trafficking would be force, compulsion, and threats, things of that nature. But as far as Ms. Ventura goes, I think the trafficking absolutely applies to her. He's offering her something of value in exchange for her sexual acts. And in addition to doing so, he is using threat, compulsion, extortion, and sort of
manipulation,
mental abuse in order to get her to do what he wants her to. So I think Ventura is the main person here, but I think it goes both ways.
So that's a great point. So the more control and power you have goes to coercion, right? You're coercing somebody into these sexual episodes. And by the way,
blackmail,
particularly because this was apparently happening in all different locations and freak-offs were happening in different cities and places, do you think that ties together as well?
I do. I think,
Absolutely.
again, like you said earlier, the easy and straightforward charge of transportation of persons for the purpose of prostitution, but also I think it goes towards the trafficking element, the harboring element. Situations where Ms. Ventura testified she was holed up in a hotel room for 10 days. You've got kidnapping. These are all, again, and not just the trafficking, but the racketeering charge. I think when people think about racketeering, they think of a commercial enterprise. And those are illegal acts that he used his legitimate businesses to carry out. And so it helps him make both the trafficking case, but also that racketeering charge.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting about it, because also talking Sean Combs' associates,
Promising her a career for
her
sex.
testimony also helped with the racketeering charge, more specifically to prove racketeering conspiracy. And again, you have to show that Combs didn't do this alone, that there was a criminal agreement for further criminal activity, a common enterprise. And Ventura was asked what would happen if she didn't answer his messages or his phone calls right away.
Okay, so can we be real, y'all? Can we be real? She wasn't the only person that she was supposed to be a singer. He made it her job. What's her name? Kim Porter did Freak Offs too. So she wasn't the only one that was manipulated. That's why they say Kim Porter is not alive. Yeah. And it's ironic to me that she actually left him after Kim Porter died. I think she believes that he poisoned her. Because she didn't leave until after Kim Porter. Last, I think, was at her wake or her funeral or whatever. That's when she left him, 2018.
Staff, his assistants, his security call her or until they found her. And she discussed security as D-Rock.
Y'all could say the sex workers was part of the problem.
Trusted assistants as Christina Coram, David James, that security would take things from her as a form of punishment. She described how an assistant or staff would clean up
all she wanted to do was sing.
And Anthony, if we're talking about racketeering and that he would use his businesses and his resources and his employees to further criminal activity or further goals of this alleged criminal enterprise, the more people she's naming, that supports the racketeering charge, right?
Absolutely. I think that's a big.
And Jonathan tried to tell people 5 years ago.
Testimony was about, and I think. Obviously, it's a
and that's why he settled with him.
How bad it is, everything that she went through, but a lot of it has to do with that criminal enterprise, the use of legitimate businesses, that makes this really a federal charge as opposed to just a state court sexual assault case.
And with respect to transportation to engage in prostitution and also sex trafficking, I want to just reemphasize this one more time. I think there was some particular testimony I want to call out. So she testified that the freak-offs would happen with Combs and a male escort in New York, Miami, LA, Ibiza, Spain.
She was working at one of his businesses.
Escorts were paid to have sex with her. She was shown photographs of alleged sex workers, like one called The Punisher, and how at least one escort was used in multiple cities. So a lot of talk about traveling. Anthony, to me, I was asked this, actually was on Piers Morgan, and he asked me, do I think he's going to be found guilty? I said, it's difficult to say whether it's racketeering or sex trafficking.
I just hope don't nothing ever happen to your daughter. And I'm going to see if you will feel the same way. If an old man manipulate her pressure.
To be convicted.
I'm going to see, and I hope it never happens. But I hope you have that same sentiment if it happens to someone in your family. I want you to be able to say, yeah, it was her fault. Yeah, my daughter was 19. She should have known. She should have known he was gonna pimp her out, manipulate her mind, mentally and psychologically abuse her. And now he got her being a damn madam and a hoe. Yeah, I hope you had the same sentiment if it happens in your family. Because I'm gonna be like, pressure. I'm sorry it happened, dude, but you was hard on the other chick, so I need for you to be that same hard on everybody in your family. And don't try to kill him without trying to kill your daughter, because you said it was both their fault. I want you to have that same sentiment.
A lot more for the case.
And don't try to kill him.
The defense had said he was paying these people
Give
for
him,
the time.
give him a high
experience.
five.
The mere transportation of them or her to have sex with sex workers, that in and of itself, isn't that an easy conviction for the prosecution? Or am I totally wrong?
So Jesse, I think the defense will be hard pressed to convince 12 people that these people that he was paying to go all over the country and even internationally were unpaid sex workers. And while that charge has a maximum sentence, I think it might be 10 years, I could be wrong. It's certainly not a life sentence. The judge can consider relevant conduct.
What else were they doing? If they were sex workers and you paid them to come and go on trips, what else were they doing on the trip? You know, if these sex off or freaks off last for 3 and 4 days, were they having business meetings? I mean, were they talking music? Were they talking clothes? What else were they doing? Yeah, he was trafficking for sex.
Transportation to engage in prostitution. Now there's a lot more.
And we ain't even got to his parties where they had the sex workers there walking around butt naked. Yeah. Men for the women, women for... We ain't gonna even talk about the parties. Yeah, because see, Cassie just opening the door. There's a, you know, because they say his parties are leveled off. You know, it's a real party up until midnight. And if you ain't gone, then you go into the next room and then they get a little, you know, freaky. And then if you still there after 2, then all doors locked, everything goes, people are drugged, they don't know what done hit them. Yeah. So there's levels to his parties, just like it's levels to how they are laying it out. She's opening the door. It's going to get gritty, nasty, and grimy, cause that male or who call himself an ex worker, sex worker, is supposed to be one of the witnesses, and she named him yesterday. Yeah, so it's finna get real milk chocolate double fudge sundae up in here.
Right, but the defense had said he was paying these people for their time and experience, but the mere transportation of them or her to have sex with sex workers, that in and of itself, isn't that an easy conviction for the prosecution? Or am I totally wrong?
So Jesse, I think the defense will be hard pressed to convince 12 people that these people that he was paying to go all over the country and even internationally were unpaid sex workers. And while that charge has a maximum sentence, I think it might be 10 years, I could be wrong. It's certainly not a life sentence. The judge can consider relevant conduct, like sex trafficking, like racketeering conspiracy, when determining punishment if he was convicted on that kind of loan. So I think it's safe to say that there will be a conviction on this case.
Oh, but will you say she wrong?
I think we need to see more of the trial.
But will you say she wrong?
Now, I tell you what,
will you say it's her fault?
Her testimony mirrored what was alleged in her civil complaint
Antonio,
that she filed against Combs. Things that were specifically included.
You can't kill him because your daughter, is she wrong too? I mean, you're gonna have to shoot her too.
Scott Muscati, the rapper who Ventura testified she dated back in 2011. I want you to listen to this back and forth. So the Prosecutor Johnson says, when you started dating Scott, did you tell Sean about Scott? Ventura responds, no. Emily Johnson, the prosecutor, asks, what was the status of your relationship with Sean at the time? Ventura responds, we were always like up and down at different times. It was definitely a time where we were not in the greatest place. Johnson asks, did there come a time when Sean found out about Scott? Ventura replies, yes. Johnson asks, how did he find out? How did Sean find out? Ventura responds, he actually found out during a freak-off in LA. He went through my phone and I believe he saw emails between me and one of his staff members. Further on in the conversation, Johnson asks, did there come a time after this when Sean mentioned Scott's car? Ventura responds, yes. He mentioned that when we were out of the country, that Scott's car would be blown up. He wanted his friends to be there to see it. Johnson asks, when you say he wanted his friends to be there to see it, who is he? Ventura responds, Sean wanted Scott's friends to be there to see the car get blown up in the driveway. Now, we first heard this allegation in Ventura's lawsuit, and apparently his car did in fact blow up in his driveway, and his spokesperson released a statement on his behalf, Kid Cudi's behalf, back in 2023 saying, this is all true. Anthony, isn't this to prove arson one of the underlying predicate crimes of racketeering?
Anytime you light fire to someone's personal property or habitation, that's the underlying elements to make an arson case. And again, the racketeering conspiracy using illegal activity through the means of your legitimate business enterprise to effectuate that amounts to racketeering. I think that was an important piece of testimony to make that charge.
And also to help with the idea she was constantly maybe under threat of violence. Like, look what he might be doing. What happens if I don't comply? And I also wonder, am I correct, right, that they have to prove at least 2 underlying crimes for racketeering?
Yes.
Pressure. But if she starts saying, but Daddy, I love him. Daddy, please, this is my life. Please, I love him. He not pimping me. He not. Daddy, it's not his fault. You gonna say, okay, baby girl.
You gotta prove more than one.
Okay. So, and by the way, talking about that, I think Ventura's testimony also helped to potentially prove other underlying crimes. Drug trafficking, right, as a predicate crime.
Y'all know, and the funny thing about it is, y'all know, men know. I mean, y'all know, you know, there's some women out there who fall for y'all game, who fall for y'all lies, that y'all be stringing them along, you know, just half the time y'all got a woman at home that, you know, that carries your name, you know, that you really in love with, but y'all be out there playing, and some of them out there really be believing everything y'all say. And it take years later for them to realize, so he was just feeding me anything the whole time. I'm up here thinking we had something special. He done had a whole family. He done had a baby since then. I mean, they living all nice and stuff. He pitched me a purse and pay a bill here, pay a bill there. And all along, they thinking they the ones. Shit. Y'all know it's a whole bunch of females out there like that.
By Combs, like ecstasy. And just going back to that idea, I think it's also been used to establish the fear element, you know, of sex trafficking. I mean, there was a part of her testimony where she talked about Combs having guns in his safe, that she was handed a gun at one point. She also recounted this alleged episode involving Combs' rival Suge Knight. And this is verbatim from her lawsuit, too, that after a freak-off, D-Rock comes in, says Suge Knight is at Mel's Diner, and he and Combs quickly pack up, drive down there. She was scared, she was crying. Anthony, this is all important for the prosecution's case, right?
Yes, I think in addition to the overarching threat, I think it's protecting Cassie from cross-examination and sort of setting up the prosecution in their redirect examination of Ventura, that this is not a relationship where she's just compliant and consenting to. There is an overarching threatening behavior that she's in fear for her life, very similarly to what we see in everyday domestic violence relationships.
And force, fraud, coercion. I think the more people that are involved or more alleged criminal activity, it makes the criminal enterprise component of racketeering more believable and digestible for the jury. Power dynamics, though. Power dynamics control big role here. So she claimed that Combs controlled all aspects of her life, There was a portion of her testimony where she talked about how he control her appearance, what kind of nails she had to have for freak-offs, complained that she looked too Mexican, and then the financial component is important too. Remember how I mentioned in the racketeering count how to ensure the women like Ventura participated in these sex acts. He would allegedly manipulate them, not only through allegedly drugging them, but controlling their careers, leveraging financial support, taking it away. So paying the rent, paying for the cars, giving her cash, allegedly proving how she made money, like through hosting parties. Again, that power dynamic, Anthony, is central and deliberate by the prosecution here.
Yes, absolutely. This ongoing manipulation. And I think in addition to some of the facts that you pointed out, the filming of these sexual acts and led to extortion, threatening these women, and especially Ms. Ventura, that if you do this or if you do that or something that I don't agree with, that I will publicly post these videos and ruin your career. And that's extortion. So I think that also helps with the racketeering and trafficking children.
And the lack of consent overall for sex trafficking, because aside from drugs, which prosecutors
it's
said
a whole bunch of people on YouTube that
she was afraid
extortion.
of making him angry. And I'm going to go back to these moments. So first, she alleged that Combs had blackmail material on her, that he threatened to release freak-off videos of her to shame her. There was apparently an exchange that was read to the court where she wrote to him, "Please delete any video out of your phone if you have. Too many people have access to your stuff." She testified that he allegedly showed her freak-off videos on a plane, threatened to release them, and she said she felt trapped. And apparently, according to her, when they landed, he wanted a freak-off, and he got a freak-off. So, Anthony, that to me, travel, alleged threat, coerced sex act, that felt like the most direct connection to establish sex trafficking. And Anthony, a lot of the testimony focused on the 2016 incident of him appearing to beat her at the LA Intercontinental Hotel. And she watched portions of footage of this attack, went through it with the jury. Interesting text conversation after she left the hotel, by the way, because Combs apparently writes to her, "Call me, the cops are here, you're going to abandon me all alone, call me please," or call me PLS. Ventura responds, "I have a premiere Monday for the biggest thing I've ever done in my life. I have a black eye and a fat lip. It was time for me to go. You are sick for thinking it's okay to do what you've done. Please stay far away from me." Combs comes back with, "Call me, help, I'm about to be arrested, thanks. If you don't pick up, you'll never hear my voice again. Damn, I would never ignore your calls. Call now, PLS, PLS. Ventura responds, "Plugging my phone in and going to bed. You should do the same." Anthony, why is this all important for the prosecution's case?
Well, I think it's a textbook exhibit of physical force, and again, manipulation that leads to trafficking and this coercive behavior. And that's a direct example of manipulation, but I think for the jury to be able to put eyes on it and see, okay, Ms. Ventura is not BSing us. There's direct evidence of physical abuse. I mean, it's good for her credibility, and it's going to make the jury feel negatively towards Mr. Combs before the defense has a chance to open their mouth.
And that's the point, right? Because at the time of this recording, we haven't heard the cross-examination by Combs' defense yet. And the questions
You
of,
beat
well,
her
why did she leave? You
and
could've
then
left.
saying,
Maybe
"Please
not.
help me,
Maybe
the
not.
police are
If you had
here.
the research to make
I
sure
got 6
she couldn't
kids."
leave or manipulated her in such a way. Because look, the problem is, you want to know for the defense, do they have any grounds to suggest none of this is true, or this isn't sex trafficking or racketeering? It doesn't meet the elements. Do they have grounds to question whether this was all non-consensual? I mean, she admitted on the stand that she was intimate with Combs one more time after he allegedly raped her, but she said she was with him again by choice. Now, you and I both know this would not be the first time something like this happens. But
absolutely
just
not.
let's wrap it up here as we talked about all the ways her testimony helped the prosecution's case. What are some difficulties you think are going to be for the prosecution with Cassandra Ventura when she's cross-examined by Sean Combs' defense counsel?
I think some of the difficulties are going to be the length of the relationship, the amount of time that she stayed with Mr. Combs.
That's the reason why she had sex with him again after he raped her.
Do things with him. And she did engage in a consensual, or I wouldn't say consensual, but a relationship that from the outside looking in looked like a good relationship. There was a specific text message on Father's Day where she was telling Mr. Combs that she was excited for him to potentially be the father of her child, right? And I think these are pieces of evidence that the defense is going to highlight in an effort to show that she was
he led her to believe
participating in the relationship with Mr. Combs and engaging in a swinger lifestyle.
Anthony, I thought this was very useful for people to see because there's a lot to take in, a lot of graphic testimony. It can be overwhelming. but to, condense it in a way that we know why it's relevant to the prosecution's case. I think that's key from a legal point of view. Remember, this is not a salacious article. This is a legal trial. This is a criminal trial. So it's important to understand how it's going to be articulated by the prosecution in their closing arguments when they happen in 8 weeks. But Anthony Osso, thank you so much for taking the time. It was great seeing you.
Thank you, Anthony.
And that is all we have for you right now here on Side.
Okay, let me see what else I got. Hold on. Ooh. Do I want to go to Harvey? Hold on. Ooh, my butt hurt. Ooh, pause. 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 Let me say pause. I need to listen to that first. Hold on. Ooh. I don't know if I want to watch that. Hold on, let's hear this.
Business to combat human trafficking, his views skewed when it comes to sexual activity. I believe it's helped turn him into a sexual deviant. I've had FBI come to my house before and tell me they found a threat against my life. Somebody didn't want me to do this interview. This is a dangerous game people are playing, and some people deserve retribution.
You clearly feel that Sean Combs made people disappear.
I know this situation's dangerous. I have
y'all ready for this?
My life throughout my career.
Y'all ready to hear Big Homie CC? Y'all ready? I need to put it over here so I can go to the ladies' room. Y'all ready to hear this? This is partner. It was or something. Who is Big Homie CC? Huh? Who is Big Homie CC who say he finna tell us if Combs done made people disappear? Can y'all get the likes up? I gotta do this over here. I gotta go to the ladies' room. I'm gonna come back to you. Huh? Y'all ready? Hi, Erica. I think he was Bodyguard who helped people traffic children. Oh, he helped traffic children escape? Oh, okay. Let's hear it is.
Imagine multiple threads becoming one. A single, non-linear digital.
Other people say that Diddy was a Fed himself, that he was on their payroll.
I know how this works. After working in the industry, I converted my business to combat human trafficking. His views skewed when it comes to sexual activity. I believe it's helped turn him into a sexual deviant. I've had FBI come to my house before and tell me they found a threat against my life. Somebody didn't want me to do this interview. This is a dangerous game people are playing, and some people deserve retribution.
You clearly feel that Sean Combs made people disappear.
I know this situation's dangerous. I've had several attempts on my life throughout my career.
Other people say that Diddy was a Fed himself, that he was on their payroll. Do you think that's a possibility?
If there's smoke, there's fire, Pierce. I've very rarely seen any straight dudes in this industry, man. All bisexual weirdos. I don't want to be the only straight man at the party.
And what would you like to happen to?
I'll say this.
The opening days of Diddy's trial in Manhattan have been gripping, lurid, shocking, and revelatory. It's everything we should have expected from a federal case against a mogul and megastar who stands accused of sex trafficking, racketeering, and conspiracy. My next guest has been watching these week's proceedings with a particular personal interest. Big Homie CC is a celebrity bodyguard and security entrepreneur, and he joins me now. Big Homie, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Hello, Pierce. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thank you. We're 2 days into this case against Diddy. What is your gut feeling about what's going to happen here?
Well, my gut feeling of what's going to take place is, well, we're going to see a lot of strange things take place due to the fact that I know how this world works. After working in the industry, I converted my business to combat human trafficking. Last year, my team brought home 17 people, 4 children, 1 boy. And whenever these trials come about, the closer you get to the trial date, a lot of things start happening to remove people from the case that are going to strengthen the case for the prosecution. And I feel like we're watching that take place now with one of the male sex worker guys who provided tapes to the feds. He's disappeared. And this is similar to what happened in the Tory Lanez case, where the bodyguard whose DNA was on the weapon, he disappeared. So I expect to see a lot of strange things take place. I expect to see the defense team do a lot of steps to lighten the image of Combs. And we've been watching that take place.
From what you know about him, Sean Combs, obviously the perception has changed dramatically since these allegations were made and since he got shot.
Things take place due to the fact that I know how this world works. Hello, Pierce. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thank you. We're 2 days into this case against Diddy. What is your gut feeling about what's going to happen here?
Well, my gut feeling of what's going to take place is, well, we're going to see a lot of strange things take place due to the fact that I know how this world works. After working in the industry, I converted my business to combat human trafficking. Last year, my team brought home 17 people, 4 children, 1 boy. And whenever these trials come about, the closer you get to the trial date, a lot of things start happening to remove people from the case that are going to strengthen the case for the prosecution. And I feel like we're watching that take place now with one of the male sex worker guys who provided tapes to the feds. He's disappeared. And this is similar to what happened in the Tory Lanez case, where the bodyguard whose DNA was on the weapon, he disappeared. So I expect to see a lot of strange things take place. I expect to see the defense team do a lot of steps to lighten the image of Combs. And we've been watching that take place.
From what you know about him, Sean Combs, obviously the perception has changed dramatically since these allegations were made and since he got charged. I mean, from everything we're seeing now, he seems a very
Who was here the other day?
nasty, violent piece of work.
Girl, I'm telling you, he said everybody is this. Who was here the other day? Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Who was here the other day when I said it's that guy? What is Zelic went missing? He was pleading and crying and saying that he wasn't, that whatever, and then he just went missing the following week. And I said, because he was talking about sleeping with strange people and he had met on back pages and stuff. Do y'all remember that? And I showed it to you, and I think my phone went dead. Did it? Zelic Williams. And I just said, it's just something about. Now I'm finding out, Grandma Way, okay. Lord, so when he just said that, I'm like, oh, Lord, my heart dropped, y'all. Y'all do know that. When he said somebody who had gave some evidence and then they just disappeared. Lord.
Due to the fact that I know how this world works, after working in the industry, I converted my business to combat human trafficking. Last year, my team brought home 17 people. 4 children, 1 boy. And whenever these trials come about, the closer you get to the trial date, a lot of things start happening to remove people from the case that are going to strengthen the case for the prosecution. And I feel like we're watching that take place now with one of the male sex worker guys who provided tapes to the feds. He's disappeared. And this is similar to what happened in the Tory Lanez case, where the bodyguard whose DNA was on the weapon, he disappeared. So I expect to see a lot of strange things take place. I expect to see the defense team do a lot of steps to lighten the image of Combs. And we've been watching that take place.
From what you know about him, Sean Combs, obviously the perception of him has changed dramatically since these allegations were made and since he got charged. I mean, from everything we're seeing now, he seems a very unpleasant, nasty, violent piece of work. Is that a correct assessment?
The assessment is going to be correct. So what I've learned is whenever you see a gentleman like this from affluence and power, whenever they have an addiction to MDMA or the drug ecstasy, they call it the love drug. So he's been doing this drug for over 20 years. So that's going to lead his view skewed when it comes to sexual activity. I believe it's helped turn him into a sexual deviant. And, you know, what type of man wants to see another man urinate in his wife's mouth? I feel like it's evil. I think his behavior is egregious. And, you know, I have a history of using very heinous acts on people like this who participate in this type of lascivious acts.
As we're talking, Cassie Ventura, who was his longtime girlfriend, is one of the two people who the feds have brought this case with. She says that Combs would bash on my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me. Asked how often, she replied, too frequently. She says she didn't want to participate in the freak-offs, as he called them, but she did so because she loved him very much and wanted to make him happy. She told the jury she was scared of what he would do if she said no. Physical violence from Combs, she said, was always on the back of her mind. He wanted to control every aspect of her life, from how she looked to her work. And when he couldn't reach her immediately, he and his employees would call her incessantly or come and find her in person. So she's building a picture of a violent control freak. Is that a picture that you recognize of what you know about this?
Right. So definitely these are traits that I recognize. In the field that I work in, whenever we get a call for a retrieval and a family is concerned about a loved one, those same characteristics that this woman listed is the same things that streetwalkers will list about their boyfriend, which is actually their pimp and pamperer. That's why I have an affinity for people who are survivors of this type of nonsense and oppression. And this sounds familiar. You know, along this path, I've been poisoned 3 times. My toxicology report showed cyanide. You know, cyanide metabolizes into pneumonia in your body. So I've had pneumonia on 3 occasions. And these problems didn't start for me until I started to speak out about people like this. You know, it's been a hard time to line up this interview because the last time I was scheduled to be in this interview, randomly, our car gets hit from the side by a blacked out vehicle, no license plate. That's happened 3 times this month so far.
Really?
Somebody didn't want me to do this interview. Yeah, somebody didn't want me to do this interview. You know, I'm somebody where I've had FBI come to my house before and tell me they found a threat against my life. So, you know, I'm well versed in this world. But you know, I got round the clock security. One of them was sitting right here with me right now. This is a dangerous game people are playing, and it's a good feeling for me to see the justice system prevail. And some people deserve retribution.
You clearly feel that Sean Combs, over the years, has made people disappear.
Litter Robot has now solved the litter box problem for over 1 million pet parents around the world.
Made people disappear.
Right. Well, Pierce, let me ask you a question. From your journalistic perspective, have you ever noticed how in this industry, people untimely meet their demise soon as somebody else seems like they're having a problem? Have you ever seen that before?
Well, there was, of course, the case of one of his other ex-girlfriends, Kim Porter, who died of pneumonia at a very young age. You just referenced your own situation with pneumonia that you believe was deliberate poisoning. Do you believe that may be what happened to her?
Why are so many people coming down with pneumonia? Why is that happening to everybody? What is that about? Where have you ever seen this many cases of pneumonia associated with one situation? So, you know.
Wow.
There were rumors.
I'm not saying.
Well, I was going to mention on this that there have been rumors circulating online that Diddy may have poisoned Jamie Foxx, which caused his 2023 hospitalization. In his Netflix show, he compared Combs to the devil in revealing his near-death experience
Diddy
after
Combs
a
raped
brain
her after they
bleed and
broke
stroke.
up.
He said, I say this all the time. I saw the tunnel. I didn't see the light. It was hot in that tunnel. I thought, shit, have I gone to the wrong place? I looked up at the end of the tunnel, and I thought I saw the devil saying, come on. Or was that Puffy? I'm effing around, but if that was Puffy at a flaming bottle of Johnson, and no, I'm just kidding, I think that you have taken that to be a not too oblique reference to the fact that he suggested he may too have been poisoned.
Jamie Foxx said out of his mouth that his partner handed him an Advil, and after he took that Advil, he woke up 22 days later. That's what he said out of his mouth. I feel like us as a species, I feel like human skepticism has become a virus, because if we don't trust the words of our peers, where are we as a species? You know, eyewitness testimony and circumstantial evidence is enough to get a person a life sentence in any court on the earth. Why is it that when people are whistleblowing and putting their life and livelihood on the line, they receive so much scrutiny? I don't think that's by chance.
Tax day passed, but for millions of Americans, that's where the trouble begins. The IRS is now ramping up enforcement for those who missed the April deadline or still owe back taxes. Well, today's sponsor, Tax Network USA, can still help. If your books are a mess, if you're self-employed, or if you're
I think I
business
accidentally
owner,
deleted
Tax
your
Network
message.
USA specializes in cleaning up financial chaos.
Speaking
and
to
getting
Kane
back on
Life.
track quickly.
Erica,
They say the IRS
let's
is
see.
applying enforcement pressure at levels they've never seen before. But even after the deadline, it's not too late to take control. The consultation is
Oh yeah,
free.
because it automatically
Penalties, threatening letters,
deleted
and
because you
surprise
put
levies
that.
before they escalate. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/peers.
Wow.
That's tnusa.com/peers.
I pretty much agree with everything he's saying, even the pimping. I just didn't know he was gonna say this.
I mean, this sounds kind of mafioso stuff, but I sense that you're talking from a lot of experience here, that you genuinely believe this is a highly dangerous situation involving a highly dangerous man with very dangerous people acting on his behalf, potentially.
Thank you, Snowman.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely speaking from experience. This is definitely a highly dangerous situation, because this guy was the middleman. He was the party guy. He was the person who lined up the parties and festivities for a lot of guys a lot more wealthy and affluent than him. So, you know, I'm a person who believes that the Epstein's list is very similar to Diddy's list.
Wow.
I'm a believer in that. And, you know, whenever it comes to protecting women and children, I'm going to be fierce. Big ups to my sponsor, Stallion Gear, for putting up funds to help us go out and help people. You know, I want to salute Michael Franzese, because he's probably the only famous person who donated to our campaign for protecting women and children, going down to the orphanages and passing out toys and gifts. Because at the end of the day, us as men, we must learn to police ourselves in our own community, because if not, these type of activities will continue to run rampant. I know this situation is dangerous. I've had several attempts on my life throughout my career, and you know, where there's one dangerous guy, there's a group.
You referenced earlier, I have a history of heinous acts against people who behave like that. What did you mean by that?
Well, there's a lawsuit that I'm listed in where allegedly I quipped Combs about his sexual deviant activity, and I protected the plaintiff and pointed a firearm at Mr. Combs. That's what the paperwork says. They don't have their facts right, but, you know, I have a reputation for, you know, maintaining a proper balance.
What was he doing, Combs, at the time?
Yeah, so that's all alleged. So, you know, they don't really got they don't have the facts correct with that situation. There's some sort of conspiracy going on because about his sexual deviant activity, and I protected the plaintiff and pointed a firearm at Mr. Combs. That's what the paperwork says. They don't have their facts right, but, you know, I have a reputation for, you know, maintaining a proper balance.
What was he doing, Combs, at the time?
Yeah, so that's all alleged. So, you know, they don't really got they don't have the facts correct with that situation. There's some sort of conspiracy going on because the same law firm that has brought this case, they tried to file this same case last year. They finally got it amended this year, and this same law firm was trying to pay me $5,000 to come talk on an interview. I turned it down, and then they filed this paperwork. You know, I firmly believe that this lawsuit was filed by people off his side to try to discredit me, other witnesses, to try to get this current case that he's on thrown out. That's how deep this goes, because the law firm who brought this asinine case, nobody can seem to track them down. How can they have this case amended? Who has the finances to file this type of lawsuit? You know, I got to pay Ed Zappia $15,000 to represent me in a case like this while this trial is going on. Something weird is happening.
But just to be clear, was there an incident where you witnessed somebody who was being abused or about to be abused or had been abused by Diddy, by Sean Combs, and you intervened and warned him to stop?
Definitely.
And what can you tell me about that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, it's an open case, so like I can't really expound too much on that. But I've had several calls about this guy. You know, I've had several calls about his son. You know, people reaching under ladies' dresses, fondling them without asking for permission. You know, where did he learn
That's
this
what
behavior
you would be
from?
doing,
Where did he
Preston,
learn
trying
it
to
from?
maintain a proper balance if it was your daughter.
Dapper Dan said he grew up, he knew Combs' parents. And he said what's going on with Combs didn't start with him. It started with his family.
I believe that.
The same things I see when I'm battling trafficking cases. The most common enablers of this activity are close relatives, families, and friends.
Absolutely.
There are lots of rumors, as you know, swirling about Diddy and have been accelerated.
Oh, he's a regulator.
One of them is that he had something to do with Tupac Shakur's murder. Do you believe that?
Well, you know, when it comes to situations like that, you got to look at the list of facts. There's a guy by Dwayne Keith Davis who's currently in a Las Vegas detention center. And, you know, he swears up and down that Combs promised him a payment to unalive the rapper, and the rapper became unalived. And, you know, FBI say Eric Von Zip intercepted the payment and kept it for himself. Like this, the paper trail wouldn't exist. If there's smoke, there's fire, Pierce.
Other people say that Diddy was a Fed himself, that he was on their payroll. Do you think that's a possibility?
His daddy was.
Well, you know, that's definitely a possibility, but oftentimes in my culture, being an African-American male, sometimes we can believe that we're bigger than the program.
Facts.
And the moment he decided to sue the liquor company, Diageo, that's when all of the onset of these problems started. You know, when you offend a list of board of directors and all of them are richer than you can get the short end of the stick, and that's what we're watching happen here.
Big homie, we've all heard a lot about these freak-offs. Most people I've talked to say, well, there were layers of parties that Diddy would throw. There was the public one with all the glamour and all the celebrities and stuff, and then there'd be various layers ending up in the freak-off area, and that would go on sometimes for days and was extremely depraved, involved a lot of drugs, a lot of very kinky, depraved sex and so on. What can you tell me about the freak-offs? For those who don't know anything about this world, what was it about the freak-offs that is so fascinating to people, do you think?
No offense, but if you're paying more than $30 a month for car insurance, you're getting ripped off. Everybody knows you can.
All up in
it. What people have to understand is swinger parties exist. And that's exactly the lifestyle that this gentleman lives. He's a swinger. And swingers
and
hang with other swingers. That's what it is. Like the term freak off has become sensationalized by media, but what the true nature and name for this event is going to be called a swinger party, Pierce. And that's what takes place. You people, partners sharing their partner, indulging in sexual acts. You know, as long as things are consensual, you know, what people do is their business. But if I'm getting a call because somebody's applying oppression to other people, that's when things become a problem. And, you know, I had sent in a video of the guy, Combs, walking around, collecting everyone's cell phone before they get onto a yacht to go party. Why do you have to collect everyone's cell phone before you go onto a party? He's collecting the phones himself. That's what I meant by there's layers to the party. You know, the first part of the event is going to be a normal socializing mixer. But, you know, when the guy comes out collecting phones, that's when things are about to get
freaky.
That's when somebody's cake's getting touched. This is how it goes. It's a zest apocalypse right now, man. We got to do something about this.
Is there any doubt that he was bisexual? Did he? That seems to be clear from a lot of the evidence that's come out.
He prefer men.
Yeah, all of these guys are when it comes to that. Like, I've very rarely seen any straight dudes in this industry, man. That's why I pivoted my business. Like, it's like, you know, I don't want to be the only straight man at the party. So, you know, I got to change it up. All of these dudes are, man.
But
all of them are.
And the freak-offs...
all bisexual weirdos.
Right, you're painting a picture of these freak-offs as being consensual largely, although the issue of the phones is obviously significant and will be tested, I'm sure, in court. But you're also suggesting that it was everyone sort of sharing partners. But isn't the key part of the Diddy case predicated on the fact that he may have been trafficking, in other words, bringing in a lot of sex workers to take part in these as well? And that he, for example, with Cassie Ventura, was, you know, they were having, you know, male sex workers, female sex workers, and so on. In other words, it may have been consensual, but it also involved people who were not, you know, with each other, but actual sex workers joining in.
Yeah. So, you know, whenever you see the little guys, the white dudes come in with the spiky hair, looking like vampires, yeah, you know, the sex workers is arriving. And at the end of the day, is it consensual if you're promising people a career path and a lifestyle and glitz and glamour, and you're saying, look, we're all doing it. Come join us. You party with us, then I can get you a record deal. I can get you this. That's what's going on to certain people. You know, everybody isn't being financially compensated, and that's where lies the problem.
Big Homie, you referenced the fact that several times we tried to do this interview and stuff happened to you that was very concerning. Car with blacked out windows and so on, engaging with your vehicle and so on. Now that you've given this interview and you've gone public again and made it very clear what you think of Sean Diddy Combs, do you fear about reprisals?
No, I don't fear anything like that. I'm very very good at what I do, and I'm trained in everything dangerous.
And
I knew what I signed up for. I'm very well aware of the risk.
Who got arrested
You know,
today?
I'm gonna go back into hiding after this, of course, but at the same time,
Chris Brown got arrested today. Hold on, let me say this. But I thought about YELLABEEZY. Somebody when Yella got arrested, they was talking about some fight that Yella and Chris Brown jumped some people. And I was wondering, was that what Chris Brown was arrested for today? Is because first thing popped in my head is Yella telling. Is YELLABEEZY talking? Yeah. Yella.
And I intend to get that job accomplished.
He telling on everybody.
Diddy would want you dead?
Probably be in his best interest if I was. Good luck with that, though. I've been proven to be hard to kill, though. Shout out Turn Up guys. Shout out to the guys.
Just finally,
what do you say?
Big Homie, there's a lot of speculation about tape. And I think you've talked about the fact a lot of these guys...
Probably be in his best interest if I was. Good luck with that, though.
Why I won't go back?
Partners, but isn't the key part of the Diddy case predicated on the fact that he may have been trafficking, in other words, bringing in a lot of sex workers to take part in these as well? And that he, for example, with Cassie Ventura, was, they were having, male sex workers, female sex workers, and so on. In other words, it may have been consensual, but it also involved people who were not, with each other, but actual sex workers joining in.
Yeah. So, whenever you see the little guys, the white dudes come in with the spiky hair looking like vampires, the sex workers is arriving. And at the end of the day, is it consensual if you're promising people a career path and a lifestyle and glitz and glamour, and you're saying, look, we're all doing it. Come join us.
Yep.
Party with us, then I can get you a record deal. I can get you this. That's what's going on to certain people.
Yeah, that's what he did to Rob.
Everybody isn't being financially compensated.
Chris Brown got arrested and his ex-girlfriend.
Big Homie, you referenced the fact that several times we tried to do this interview and
relationship
stuff happened to you that was very concerning. Car with blacked out windows and so on, engaging with your vehicle.
I heard some about Young Miami getting arrested. I don't know if it was true or not.
And made it very clear.
No, I don't believe in coincidences like that.
Do you fear about reprisals?
No, I don't fear anything like that. I'm very, very good at what I do, and I'm trained in everything dangerous. I knew what I signed up for. I'm very well aware of the risk. I'm gonna go back into hiding after this, of course, but at the same time, me as a man, I'm here to fulfill my duty. God sent me to do a job, and I intend to get that job accomplished.
Do you think Diddy would want you dead?
Probably be in his best interest if I was.
He a witness, y'all.
I've been proven to be hard to kill, though. Shout out Turn Up guys. Shout out to the guys.
He probably a witness.
Just finally, Big Homie, there's a lot of speculation about what he may have kept on tape. And I think you've talked about the fact a lot of these guys like to keep trophies, memorabilia,
absolutely
souvenirs of their depravity, if you like. Just tell me about that briefly. I mean, was that part of the modus operandi for the freak offs and everything?
Yeah, so what I'll say is throughout my career path, we may end up with a pedophile's phone.
May have a what?
In that phone, you'll see a list of trophies.
Oh.
And
wow. This is interesting.
Probably be in his best interest if I was. Good luck with that, though. I've been proven to be hard to kill, though. Shout out Turn Up guys. Shout out to the guys.
Just finally, Big Homie, there's a lot of speculation about what he may have kept on tape. And I think you've talked about the fact a lot of these guys like to keep trophies, memorabilia, you know, sort of
absolutely
souvenirs of their depravity, if you like. Just tell me about that briefly. I mean, was that part of the modus operandi for the freak-offs and everything?
Yeah, so what I'll say is throughout my career path, we may end up with a pedophile's phone. And in that phone, you'll see a list of trophies. And when it was announced that he had CCTV film cameras in the house, and when the Homeland Security did the initial raid, they didn't inform the raiding officers whose home they were raiding because they had information that he might have been protected. And, you know,
I believe him, y'all.
Part of Epstein's thing was to get people in precarious situations, and then you have this footage that you can use against them to be able to have your way with champions of the industry and able to control policy. He does the same thing. So, you know, if you want to be able to seal a big deal and there's a guy you know likes to party, it's easy to set that up. You know, you send a guy a screenshot like, yeah, man, you had such a good time with those two underage girls yesterday, man. You remember this video right here? That person is going to have some incentive to help you out in what you need them to do. It's the same. We've seen this over and over.
What do you think is going to happen to him? And what do you want to happen to him?
I actually think he may get off.
Oh, shit, no.
I think he might get off. I've seen stranger things take place.
Well, we have seen that last
They offered him a plea deal of
week.
15 years. He turned it down. That's that. At first, they were saying life. Then it went to 15 years. I wouldn't be shocked if he got off.
Oh, yeah, I will be.
And what would you like to happen to him?
What I'd like to happen to him, you know, I'm not going to say on air. I'll say it to you on camera. But I'll say this. I wish the worst. And I have extreme disdain for any man who wants to traffic another person, because that is just slavery all over again. And I don't believe any one person should have dominion over another human being.
Big Homie CC, thank you very much indeed for doing the
Dang,
interview.
Big
I
Homie.
appreciate it.
Salute. And I don't even like saying that salute stuff, but shout out to Big Homie. I like him. I like his views. Let's check this one out. Shout out to him. I believe everything he say. Hold on. I ain't have my volume up.
Steamy messages to challenge her claims of horror. Day 4 of Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial got
Put your tongue in your mouth, freak.
As Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura faced a blistering cross-examination with defense lawyers using old love texts and steamy messages to challenge her claims of horrifying abuse, from freak-offs to jealousy.
You hope he gets pneumonia.
It all came out in court today, and I'm going to be speaking with our very own Elizabeth Milner to get the inside scoop, including a major witness who's set to take the stand next.
Let's go.
Sidebar.
Who next?
Law and crime.
Who next, y'all? The sex worker? Who next? Ooh.
The 4th day of testimony in Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial turned explosive as his former girlfriend Cassandra Ventura faced quite aggressive cross-examination about her tumultuous 11-year relationship with Combs. The defense pushed back hard on Ventura's allegations that she was coerced and abused.
They can
by the
show
phone
make you look
showing
ugly with
jurors
this little
text
art.
messages and emails.
Don
where
Richards
the two
is the
appeared to
next
exchange
witness.
loving
Okay.
words. Even some
I thought she had her
explicit
own
plans for their
lawsuit.
so-called freak-offs, raises the question of consent or not. So to give us that up close and personal account of every single gripping moment that happened inside that
they
courtroom,
say, what's the O'Day girl? I just saw that, Aubrey O'Day.
Once again, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on. So
yeah, please hit the like button.
What was the atmosphere in that courtroom like today? Was it tense when we're talking about cross-examination? Did it feel different than direct examination?
Yeah, for the most part, this was a day that a lot of us were anticipating. A lot of us were wondering, what is the defense going to have when it comes to this cross-examination?
Shout out
the
to
last couple of
Sidebar.
days, while Cassie's been under direct examination, to me at least, just kind of watching her tone, watching how she answers these questions, she really kind of seemed very compelling. She felt like a compelling witness. So obviously, the defense's job is going to be to poke holes in this. Did you want to participate in these freak-offs? Did you have a way of helping set these up? Did you initiate wanting these freak-offs in some instances when Diddy was sick, or other instances as well too? And so today was definitely a very highly anticipated day. As far as the tone just in the courtroom, I think a lot of people were just kind of wanting to know what was going to happen.
You hard on women,
as far as
oppression.
who was inside that courtroom today, it looked a little different.
You hard on women.
On day one and even a little bit into day two, in that, we had Karen Agnifilo inside that courtroom today. She is obviously married to Mark Agnifilo. You had Diddy's mother, Janice Combs, in the courtroom. His son, Christian Combs, Quincy Brown, Justin Combs, all came into the courtroom today. Notably, the daughters, again, not inside that courtroom today. Chance's mother, who's been inside that courtroom, also wasn't there today. Neither was Justin's mother inside that courtroom. So it was a little different than we've seen, on prior days, especially for opening statements, as well as even into day two.
Them baby mama said that's too much.
Cassie was still the same as it has been the other couple of days she's been testifying. Her husband, Alex,
what he got in his mouth?
Courtroom. Cassie's brother was inside that courtroom, as well as Cassie's mother and her attorney, Doug Wigter. As far as even when Cassie came into the courtroom today, you would think that maybe she would appear nervous or just a little shaken, depending on, what to expect really from what the cross-examination would look like. But she appeared very cool, calm, and collected.
Shout out to Cassie for at least getting help, getting therapy, going to rehab, turning her life around, getting in front of, I don't want to say demons, but getting in front of that. A lot of people don't get help after going through half the stuff she went through. I knew that she would have had to have gotten help to be strong enough to face it. And I mean, she is really doing a great job, being showing integrity and facing the person who used her. So shout out to her. Shout out to her.
How she has been on the stand these last couple of days. She just walked up to the witness stand.
It will turn into a generational curse. Plus size bag without getting help.
And even
Absolutely.
when Ana Maria Estevao was asking her question, she, for the most part, appeared cool, calm, and collected.
They are.
And was still the same even during.
They don't have a doctor.
As far as comparing it to her direct testimony, where she was very soft spoken. There were times she wasn't saying yes or anything like that. Instead, she was saying yep or
absolutely turn into a generational curse.
Again, very soft-spoken. She appeared that she didn't seem nervous, at least from what I could see of her. Of course, there were some moments where you could kind of feel that she was uncomfortable, especially when it came to these graphic text messages that were being displayed, but she didn't feel comfortable necessarily reading them out loud.
And they both had OD.
Right? This was,
she did and he did
that
too.
These were private messages between people who were dating, people who were together for a years-long period. But just keep in mind, even to now, she is married to somebody else. And, her husband was in that courtroom. And so I could tell that there was a little uncomfy moments when it came to especially some of those graphic tests or those graphic text messages that were being displayed in court today. But as far as the tone goes, just overall, it appeared just kind of like enough.
New double serum. Possible anti-aging results in 7 days.
He was talking to
Another day in court, I'm assuming that, Cassie kind of knew what to expect as far as where the defense would go, what type of questions that they would ask her, knowing that they would try to poke holes into her credibility. But again, she appeared cool, calm, and collected while on the stand. No emotional moments or anything like that. No points where she appeared visibly agitated or angry. Just, for the most part, asking clarifying questions. Can you repeat that? Can you ask it a different way? Can you talk about what time frame this was? Oh, I don't remember these text messages. And so that was kind of most of the tone throughout most of the cross-examination today.
Hey everybody, this is a law and crime legal alert. Children are being diagnosed with serious conditions like type 2 diabetes and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. To visit
The questions kind of doing the back and forth. Text messages were shown.
Food or scan the QR code on screen to learn more. So before we get into the substance of what the cross-examination was about, there are two other groups of people I was curious about how they were reacting throughout the day. How were the jurors reacting during the cross-examination from what you could see? And how was Diddy reacting during the cross-examination by his defense counsel?
As far as I could see from the jurors today, they seemed at some points a little bored. It seemed at some points they're kind of wondering what's happening next. I think even when the text messages were shown, a lot of them were very much analyzing them. A lot of them had direct focus onto the computer screen in front of them, just so that way they could read all the messages, even the more graphic, sexually explicit messages. I saw sometimes some jurors were doing, the tennis match.
He's a serial.
Either looking at Cassie, who was on the witness stand, then looking at Anna Maria
directly and indirectly with them drugs and poison.
Meanwhile, some other jurors were just laser focused on Cassie and just what she had to say and how she responded to the cross-examination today. As far as Diddy goes, Diddy, just like every other day, is very much participating in his defense, very much so passing off notes to his defense attorneys to kind of hand over to Esteveo, who was standing up doing the questioning. He very much so was intently looking at either Cassie or the exhibits in front of him, especially when it came to those sexually explicit text messages or even just the text messages and the emails back and forth with one another. And so just like every other day, Diddy is very much so participating in his defense, because as the defense has pointed out a number of times, that Cassie is a very critical witness to the case. Mark Agnifilo said she is probably the most key witness in this case, somebody that, they wanted to make sure that they were doing a thorough cross-examination of her, because Diddy's life somewhat depends on this, because, they were making the point that he's facing a life sentence if he's convicted. And so they wanted to make sure that they were asking every single question that they needed to ask. Do I think that was necessarily accomplished? I'm sure we'll get to that in just a second. But for the most part, as far as Diddy goes today, he was definitely participating like usual.
Yeah, and look, she is the number one witness. What do I mean by that? She's the star witness. She starts at the start of this trial. I believe this case rises and falls with her testimony. She is making up a number of the counts that he's facing right now: racketeering, sex trafficking. Her testimony would help support those and also help support transportation to engage in prostitution. The prosecution needs her to testify, which is why I believe one of the reasons they want her to testify so early is because she's 8.5 months, 9 months pregnant. They got to make sure she gets on the stand before something happens. Now, you mentioned the text messages. This day was filled with text messages. Elizabeth, I'm going to ask you what we learned about these text messages. I'll leave it to you how graphic you want to get about them, if they're, depending upon what the value is. But what were the text messages? What were the value of the text messages? What was the defense doing with these text messages? And by the way, emails too. So communications between Combs and Ventura. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it was a lot of messages today, a lot of things that were read inside that courtroom. First starting off with messages first with Anna Maria Esteveo asking Cassie, so you love Diddy? She said yes. And he loved you? She said yes. You called him Sean, you knew the real Sean? And Cassie said, can you repeat? And then along the lines answered the question that, she knew the Sean that other people didn't see. When they started getting into the email correspondence and text correspondence, they went all the way back to 2008. One email that said, I'm a very lucky woman, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase this email because it was a lot going on. Cassie said, I'm a very lucky woman. I miss you, and I fly wherever you needed me to. I love you.
2008.
And then she signed it off, Cass. They showed a 2009 email that Diddy had written to Cassie, and this was the baby girl and the pop email corresponded and nicknames that they had for one another. Diddy said, I love you so much, it makes me cry. And then Cassie responded, you hungry, Pop? But you know, and
Now, y'all, come on. I love you so much you make me cry. Really, Diddy. I mean, I guess it worked. Really. I love you so much it makes me cry. He ought to be ashamed of himself. But she was 19. Because they going back 2008, right? I love you so much you make me cry. He ought to be ashamed.
so I think what the defense was trying to do, at least first with Anna Maria Estevao, asking Cassie, so you love Diddy? She said yes, and he loved you. She said yes. You called him Sean, you knew the real Sean, and Cassie said, can you repeat? And then along the lines answered the question that, you know, she knew the Sean that other people didn't see. When they started getting into the email correspondence and text correspondence, they went all the way back to 2008.
Love bombing. In the beginning.
Said, I'm a very lucky woman, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase this email because it was a lot going on. Cassie said, I'm a very lucky woman. I miss you, and I fly wherever you needed me to. I love you. And then she signed it off, Cass. They showed a 2009 email that Diddy had written to Cassie, and this was the baby girl and the pop email corresponded and nicknames that they had for one another. Diddy said, I love you so much, it makes me cry. And then Cassie responded, you hungry, Pop? But you know, and so I think what the defense was trying to do, at least with these initial messages, is just kind of show that there was love and there was affection there.
That was not love. It's manipulation.
This was around the time that the two had first started dating, and I felt like it kind of played into what she had said under her direct testimony, that she did care about Diddy, that she did love him. She's been very honest about that. That
would have been such a red flag for me.
That she were in love, especially at the beginning of her relationship. There was one message from 2010. Cassie wrote, going to sleep so tomorrow will be faster, and kind of saying tomorrow will be faster so I can see you soon. Diddy responded, I love you so much. I never knew it could be like this. Cassie responded, I'm so happy. We're so in love. There was another message, just one from the year prior. Cassie saying, I love you so much. It made me feel like I can't wait until we just don't care anymore. And Cassie was pretty much saying that this was because she wanted to be open about the relationship, because the defense was trying to point out that Cassie and Diddy, for about a 2-year period, they weren't as open with their relationship. Cassie essentially just wanted to be public. Again, something that kind of
she wanted to be public
under direct testimony, where she said that she just, you know, was in love with him and just wanted to be with him at all points, all the time. A lot of just I love you back and forth, again, just kind of trying to establish
she wanted to be the girlfriend.
That these two were in love, that it wasn't forced or fraud or coerced or anything like that. Then we get to a message around August 5th of 2009. Diddy asked, when do you want to freak off? Cassie said, I'm ready to freak off, LOL. Diddy responded, you tell me the date you choose. And then I'm paraphrasing right here. She had responded, I feel like a Friday would be best. Diddy responded, also paraphrasing here, Friday it is. Maybe we can get Jules here. Jules was an escort that they had used very often in their freak offs, according to her testimony. He was brought up a number of times, and notably, he was the escort that was inside that hotel room during the 2016 Intercontinental Hotel incident. There were other messages that went into, Diddy had a subject line that said, what are you thinking about? And then Cassie responded, in a very kind of sexually explicit way that I'm not going to repeat on air. You could definitely feel like I was kind of peeking into what their history was like, especially in those intimate moments and how the two would correspond about wanting to be with each other in an intimate way. And so a lot of those messages were displayed in front of the jury. The jury saw them. Us in the gallery, we saw these messages as well too. There was a 2009 email that Diddy had wrote to Cassie saying, I want you to feel safe to let go. And Cassie wrote, I like that. I want to give you the same. In order to be more open with the things that we do in bed, I need to feel safe like home, like this is my husband and this is the only man that will ever have this aggressive sexual side of me. I'm nervous. I'm just the girl.
Husband. Husband. Hell, he did it. You not even living with him. Y'all been together how many years? Kim Porter still living in the house. Husband, child, please. I mean, come on, y'all. Come on, people. Husband. Y'all, he was all in her head. He was all in her head.
In order
See, that's why she had a problem with Kim Porter, because Kim Porter was in the house, and as long as she was alive, she was going to be a thorn in her side. Can we keep it R-E-A-L? Huh? As long as Kim Porter was alive, she was a thorn in her side. But if Kim Porter couldn't get the freaky man to marry her, I mean, huh? And they say she was the love of his life. What was stopping him from marrying her? Huh? Because he had a thing for men on the cool. He really preferred men over women. But he had to have a woman, you know, a front. Yeah.
We're open with the things that we do in bed. I need to feel safe like home, like this is my husband and this is the only man that will ever have this aggressive / sexual side of me. I'm nervous. I'm just the girlfriend that you get your fantasies off with, and that I just don't get that other part. And then she wrote ... anymore, at least. And she kind of, you know, at least to me and my perspective, appeared a little apprehensive about doing these freak-offs. She was asked by the defense, you know, do you have a fear that you guys wouldn't go public?
Definitely put it out there. He's supposed to be a witness
and
too.
she said, I guess she thought about this. Again, this is around that 2009 time frame when the two were still kind of under wraps there. But she said that the freak-offs were kind of an integral part of her relationship, and that essentially she just wanted more. There was a part where they had talked about her 21st birthday. Her 21st birthday is pretty important because that was the first time the two had kissed. That's first time that she had kissed Diddy, because remember, she had met him 2 years prior to that time. She said that this was again at her birthday. Big names, like a name that we had seen in the People and Places list from jury selection. Dallas Austin was at her that birthday party. Britney Spears was at that birthday party, and they were all brought by Diddy. She was asked about her financial situation around that time, and she said essentially she was doing well. She was, you know, modeling. She was doing other things, and then they kind of
Cassie gave it to him
about her prior relationship even before.
I was really thinking
a producer named Ryan Leslie. And around this time frame, because Cassie
Quincy gave it to his daddy on the cool.
How a bra for women over 50 should be. It's super comfortable.
Because Cassie was still in a relationship with Ryan at this time, the defense was trying to paint it as, you know, when you had met Ryan,
I didn't think she was at the house
at this point in time. And I had kind of looked it up. Diddy and Ryan Leslie aren't necessarily close in age. I think Ryan Leslie's still in his mid-40s, whereas Diddy's in his mid-50s. So there's a little bit there, but I could kind of see where the defense was trying to go and try to paint it as that you kind of get with older producers, with older men, and that could possibly kind of help you with your career. Then we saw an email from 2007 where Cassie had wrote, you know, we really had 1 week of each other just together, and I can say it's been the best and the worst. The defense asked her about her relationship with Diddy. Has it always been complicated? And she kind of affirmed that a little bit. She said she thought Diddy at first was actually more interested
She
in
wasn't
her
at
friend
first, Pressure.
Jerry Morgan, somebody that's been brought up a number of times during.
She was not at first. You just heard them say, hell, he snuck and kissed her at 21 and it freaked her out. He went down on her and she didn't know what to do. She wasn't a freak. She hadn't even, nobody had even pleased, you know. Ain't nobody had even ate her cookie. She was not a freak until she got with the freak master. Stop that. He stole a kiss. She didn't know what to do at 21. She did not become a freak until he freaked her ass out. She was trying to please the freak devil. We are not going to make her slutty before then. She was not. She got turned out. And she didn't realize that she was being pimped. That was the first time somebody went down on you. She was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Wasn't his name Puff?
Testimony. And so as far as a lot of these messages, part of it, when I was sitting inside the gallery,
I'm sorry,
like,
my
where
bad.
is this going? You know, they were just reading text after text after text. It was bunches of pages to the point I think the judge was kind of like, why are we...
She showed, come on now. She showed thought she was special. Just thinking about it, y'all. 21, you know, she trying to get her career off. She don't know. She thinks she doing what she's supposed to be doing. You know, she trying to be business and professional, and then your boss comes and kiss you, then eat you. She was like, oh my, she called her homegirl. She was, oh my God. Oh my God. He loves me. She thought she was in love then, and she sure thought he loved her. Come on now, 21? He loved bombing her, giving her everything, treating her nice, all of that. Kissing on her. Yeah. Eating on her. Yeah, she fell in love. She thought she was the one.
Cassie to read these messages so that way there's not a holdup, because it was just so much messages to the point where sometimes you were trying to connect the dots and wondering what's happening. And so the presentation was a little messy on my end, at least from what I could see, that I was just kind of like, where is this going? And there were just so many points that I felt like they
I'm talking about eating a cookie. Here come Dante.
They wanted to get in front of these messages, context that Cassie was in love, and at times that she had set up these freak offs even on her own, and times when even Diddy was sick. And so these messages were just all over the place, and at points I was just kind of like, where is this going? Because it really was so much. So I don't know how the jury
evil man
listening to all of
this. Hey, money.
Well, I'll tell you, it seemed to me
always got me
that. On the idea that she was a willing participant in the freak-offs, and that the jury, are you really going to believe that she was essentially held captive against her will, didn't want to do any of this for years because she was under threat or coercion?
He is the devil.
Of Sean Combs,
he really
highlighting
is.
Messages like, I'm always ready to freak off, LOL, or baby, I want to FO so bad. You know, that's going to help their narrative, and, you know, saying she was the one who tried to set these up, or I believe there was testimony she heated up the baby oil to be used in freak-offs. But there's a part of something that you said that I thought was really interesting, where it seems to me the defense was also trying to portray her as a jealous lover, right? And go to her motivations about why she would be going after Diddy now. Talk to us about what we learned today from the cross-examination, and how they tried to portray her, maybe with
she was
other
19,
interests
then
that
she
she had, other
21.
relationships,
He had
other
been grooming her the whole time.
How did they try to portray her as somebody who was jealous and maybe had other motives for coming after, you know, accusing Diddy now?
Well, they definitely brought up Kim Porter a couple of times today. Kim Porter is a big name because she is the mother of a few of Diddy's children, including the twins, including Christian. And so
not Christian.
Cassie had said that she had learned that Diddy had left
Christian,
off to go see Kim Porter. Again, by this time, she was still the mother of his children. She admitted to being a little bit jealous of Diddy's relationship with Kim, and she said especially this kind of happened during the holiday time because because Diddy always spent the holidays with Kim Porter, with his children, something that, surprisingly, Cassie kind of mentioned that Diddy and Cassie didn't spend much time together with his children. Instead, the children were always with Kim Porter, and this was something that she was a little bit jealous of, that she wanted to be around him and see she wanted to be around him, be around his family, get all parts of him. And so, she did admit that she was a little jealous. We learned about Gina today. Gina is another central figure a little bit, and I've done a couple of segments about Gina because Gina had previously gone on a podcast and spoken with a blogger talking about how her relationship with Diddy was, where she had alleged that Diddy was physically abusive with Gina. She had alleged that Diddy would refer to Cassie as the good one and Gina was the bad one. So for hearing from Cassie's perspective about the whole Gina situation, Gina was somebody that Gina was somebody that Diddy had seen while he was still with Cassie.
Is Gina from YouTube?
From her perspective of the jealousy. And so Cassie had learned that Diddy was seeing Gina. Cassie learned about this because of social media. And she said that Diddy initially denied seeing Gina, but learned that he was still seeing her during a point where she had told him to stop seeing her. And she called Gina actually a main problem in their relationship. And so this was around the 2013 time frame where Cassie said to Diddy, "You make me feel like a side piece. I'm happy with you no matter what," because Cassie thought she was the main girlfriend. She thought she was the only girlfriend. She didn't realize that he was seeing other people. She said that, not even surprisingly, she said that he had actually lost his temper when Diddy thought Cassie was cheating, but then when Cassie confronted Diddy about his cheating, it was like, deny, deny, deny. Another point of contention between their relationship was that, the two were on and off for an 11-year period. Cassie says that Diddy learned that she was seeing other people, and she said that it would get scary if he would find out these situations and then enter and segue into Kid Cudi. Surprisingly, they didn't talk about the car arson at all today through it, but it was essentially to kind of talk about how Diddy was just so hurt and just so devastated by the fact that Cassie was seeing Kid Cudi behind his back.
That she gave that cookie to somebody else.
Who actually introduced Cassie and to one another.
And you notice she ain't said nobody else aped her. She ain't said nobody else drugged her. She ain't saying nobody else done none of that type of stuff but Diddy. And the minute now y'all can act like, oh my God, come on fellas, can we keep it real? Y'all can have a girl that y'all been dating for a while. Y'all break up, y'all find out that she dating somebody else. Y'all gonna go over there, put your foot in the door. I need to talk to you, we need to whatever, and then you're gonna be trying to get in there and get that cookie. She could say, no, I got a boyfriend. Y'all ain't trying to hear that, cause y'all thinking, y'all mind, if y'all lay the rod down real good and proper like, that's gonna make her change her mind. Come on. Come on. Can we keep it real? And she could say, no. I mean, her no may really be no, and it may be, trying to make you jealous. I don't know. But can we agree that that's kind of how it happens more times than not? Yeah. And y'all want to get in there, act a fool, follow, see where she going, see who it is, all of that. Y'all thinking in y'all mind, he ain't better than me. He ain't gonna do this, that, and the other. And y'all gonna try to hit it. I mean, gonna have a whole dent in the headboard. I mean, not that I know anything about that, but you know.
Says that Diddy learned that she was seeing other people, and she said that it would get scary if she would find out these situations and then enter and segue into Kid Cudi. Surprisingly, we didn't talk about the car arson at all today through it, but it was essentially to kind of talk about how Diddy was just so hurt and just so devastated by the fact that Cassie was seeing Kid Cudi behind his back. The defense was trying to point out that Diddy was the one who actually introduced Cassie and Kid Cudi to one another because he was trying to get them in the studio together to pretty much kind of advance her career. And this was around the 2011 time frame. Diddy found out about Cassie and Kid Cudi, and she had said yesterday under direct examination that he had found out while they were in a freak-off. Cassie says it was actually her idea to use a burner phone because she didn't want Diddy to find out, again alluding to the fact that she was a little terrified and scared of what he could do, how he would respond. And she said that she began her relationship with Kid Cudi at a point where she and Diddy were actually off. They were on a break, but she began a relationship with Kid Cudi because the two were just enjoying each other's company. She said that she did admit that she was still doing freak-offs during this off period with Diddy, but then she would kind of go and hang out with Kid Cudi. Meanwhile, while all this is going on,
could you walk
and
to
Diddy
go
are
see
still
Kid
on a
Cudi?
break. And she again said that it was scary if he had found out. She was asked if Diddy knew that Cassie and Diddy were on a break, and she said that I don't know. And then that's when the cross got a little awkward. Because they were trying to kind of figure out a way to kind of ask these questions. And I had mentioned this during the lunch hour today, that it was just a little weird to kind of see this cross-examination around this point, because Estevao was essentially just kind of adding or concurring with Tenny Garagos, who was sitting at the defense table. I think a lot of us were kind of questioning why Estevao was the one doing the line of questioning. You know, we understand obviously that the defense was going to use a female to ask.
I'm good. How are you?
These questions under cross, but I was just kind of like, why is she conferring so much? It seemed like she didn't know what to ask next, and so that was an interesting point that I had.
She didn't know what to ask.
Room today. As far as just the Kid Cudi relationship goes, you know, I had mentioned this just yesterday that when Diddy had found out, he got a bottle or a wine bottle opener, put it in between her finger, in between his fingers, and lunged at her. But Cassie said that he had made no contact when he had lunged at her with the bottle opener.
See, they not saying it right. They making it seem like just a bottle opener. No. He had a corkscrew. A corkscrew. Bottle opener ain't gonna do no harm. But a how else you gonna stick it in between your fingers? It's a corkscrew. Yeah, that's a weapon. That other thing ain't. Shit. A corkscrew. Say it like that.
Seen while in the courtroom today. As far as just the Kid Cudi relationship goes, you know, I had mentioned this just yesterday that when Diddy had found out, he got a bottle or a wine bottle opener, put it in between her finger, in between his fingers, and lunged at her. But Cassie said that he had made no contact when he had lunged at her with the bottle opener. She said her relationship with Kid Cudi the entire time was just about a month, and she got back together with Diddy. She was asked, was the relationship offensive to Diddy because of Kid Cudi's stature in the music industry? And Cassie was kind of like, well, yeah, because Diddy wasn't cheating with other celebrities. And Cassie responded, I don't really know. The Kid Cudi relationship hurt Diddy, according to the defense, because Diddy was the one who introduced them, put them in the studio together. And so
he introduced her to her husband too.
That Diddy brought up Kid Cudi a lot after they got back together, and especially would become angry over the holidays, recalling the Kid Cudi relationship, because this was around the Christmas time frame of 2011. Cassie,
so here you go manipulating.
The two being Kid Cudi and Cassie were already broken up. Diddy accused Cassie of having another relationship with another man while shooting a movie. And
they were broke up. They were broke up. Pressure, did you not hear that? They wasn't together no more. Somebody over there coming, hanging out with her, being nice to her, treating her like she treat her like a lady. Yeah. So why she gotta be that thought over there? They wasn't together. And Kim Porter was at the house. So what we doing? What we doing? Yeah, listen. Men cannot handle what they ditch out. How dare him have an attitude? They were not together. That did not make her a thought. Stop that. But he girly though. Yeah. Y'all can't handle what y'all did.
South Africa. I bring back the people and places list that was talked about during jury selection. Why? Because this was when Michael B. Jordan was named, and
I know he was mad.
Apparently, a little annoyed by the relationship that Cassie and Michael B. Jordan were having together while they were shooting this movie. And Cassie had even said around this time that she and Diddy weren't even together when she went off to shot the movie. She broke things off. Why? Because she had seen a picture that he was still with, and Diddy was
he sure couldn't handle this one.
A little annoyed by
and he had been with Lori Harvey. With him and his son shared Lori Harvey. Justin had her first, and then Diddy had her. You know, however they did that. You know, they passed her through the cone. Yeah, Diddy is not going to get out, baby. Oh no. Yeah. So so not only did he have Cassie, hell, he had Lori too. So the whole family was mad at him because the son had Lori, daddy had Lori, and then he done had Lori, and yeah. He wasn't gonna be able to handle this one. Yeah.
Got together, and especially would become angry over the holidays. Recalling
can't handle what they did to her,
because this was around the Christmas time frame of 2011. Cassie had mentioned by New Year's the two being Kid Cudi and Cassie were already broken up. Diddy accused Cassie of having another relationship with another man while shooting a movie, and that movie was Honey 3, and this was in South Africa. I bring back the people and places list that was talked about during jury selection. Why? Because this was when Michael B. Jordan was named, and Diddy was apparently a little annoyed by the relationship that Cassie and Michael B. Jordan were having together while they were shooting this movie. And Cassie had even said around this time that she and Diddy weren't even together when she went off to shot the movie. She broke things off. Why? Because she had seen a picture that he was still with Gina. She was sent a video about that while Diddy and Gina were seen at Revolt Fest together, because somebody thought that that was actually Cassie. And so Cassie had sent kind of a nasty message to Diddy's entire staff that she thought were family, staff that she had thought had her back. But then when seeing these pictures, knowing that this was a point of contention in their relationship, she said she got upset about it because she thought the staff was her family and thought they were kind of in on this. And so those were a lot of the focus of just the other people who kind of played a role into just the tension.
She really believed that they was
Cassie and Diddy.
And yeah, they questioned, it seemed to me, a lot of her motivations. They brought up the November 2023 lawsuit to suggest he knew this was going to ruin his career, right? Now, there was a large section of the testimony regarding drug use, and I couldn't tell if it was to suggest that, hey, Combs isn't responsible for your drug use. You know, one of the things he's charged with, right, is alleged he used drugs to make victims more compliant, drug trafficking, one of the underlying crimes of racketeering. And I'm curious how they had that whole conversation regarding drugs. Was it just to suggest, you know, she had a drug issue herself that was her own problem? Or was it also to suggest, hey, he had a drug problem, and that explains a lot of his behavior, which, if I understood it correctly, is interesting, because I'm not sure I quite understood where they were going with that. I have an idea of where they were going with that, maybe to explain away some of his actions that they originally said were indefensible. So talk to us about what we know about all the drug use. What was the conversation about that? What was she questioned about?
Yeah, the drug use was also pretty prominent, especially during the afternoon portion. She was questioned, and I feel like the questioning along the lines, to your point, Jesse, was trying to paint her out to be kind of this drug addicted person during the time frame. They were questioning her. Did she use drugs when she was with Diddy? Did she use drugs without Diddy? Did she use drugs when she was with her friends? Oh, do you not remember these questions or these answers because you were addicted to drugs around that time period? And so there was a point where Cassie had said that there was a time that Diddy didn't want Cassie to do drugs, even though she still was, or even though that Diddy still was. The defense says Diddy didn't want you hanging out with a certain friend. The friend's name was Bonna. Bonna is also a pretty important name into this story. I had covered her when she had filed her civil claim against Diddy. Bonna was allegedly hung outside of a balcony by Diddy when he was going through a rage period, something that Cassie had talked about in her direct testimony to yesterday. The defense was trying to say, well, you and Bonna, you guys did a lot of drugs together, and Cassie at this time was saying, you know, she was doing opioids. Meanwhile, Bonna, according to Cassie, provided these drugs like opioids. Meanwhile, Bonna did cocaine, according to Cassie.
How do you use opioids? How do they?
Found out that Cassie
is that a
was
smoke or drink?
Drugs and
in the arm?
Diddy had contacted drug dealers not to give drugs to Cassie at this point. The defense was trying to paint it out that Diddy was just worried about her health and that she was taking a lot of drugs including
facts, Brian,
MDMA, ecstasy. They talked about the Cannes Film Festival trip where Diddy had squeezed Cassie's leg so hard that a bruise appeared on her whenever she was taking pictures on red carpets, and he had squeezed her leg so hard, according to Cassie, because she had taken drugs from him. And then there was an interesting point that was talked about in 2013 where the defense was saying that Diddy overdosed on drugs after a freak-off. Diddy was hosting a party at a Playboy mansion. Cassie had to actually take him into the hospital, and that's when Cassie had learned that he had overdosed. There were a lot of points throughout her testimony today where, again, the defense was trying to ask, do you remember when this happened? And she would respond, I don't necessarily recall. And then the defense would ask, is it because you were on drugs during this period? And she was very forthcoming. You know, I did try to seek out help a couple of times, and then she just kind of went back to, again, that same kind of lifestyle. But to her point during her direct testimony, she was saying that she used these drugs to cope with just having to do these hundreds and hundreds of freak-offs, some that would last for days at a time, some that could last for a long period of time. But I thought it was interesting, the whole
he was going to marry her
conversation today, mainly because they even discussed withdrawing from drugs, especially.
Yeah, she thought that being this freaky, this nasty, this that he was gonna marry her. This is an intimacy. This is the I want to provide you with your fantasy like you married. That's what she thought. She thought she was gonna do all this tricking and hoeing and but she didn't look at it like that. She really thought that in the end he was gonna marry her until Kim Porter came up dead.
Because of the amount of drugs that both Cassie and both Diddy were taking, and even kind of insinuating that the reason that everything had happened at the 2016 or happened at the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016 was because just a few days earlier than that, Diddy was sick, and they were saying the
sweetest moments.
Yeah, he OD'd too.
Like our new concrete mixers.
I wonder what he probably still getting drugs in prison.
Earlier than that,
in jail.
He was sick, and they were saying the defense was trying to paint it as Diddy was sick because he was going through withdrawals, and that made him agitated, that made him irritated.
So he told, I missed that I was talking. So he told the dope dealers not to give her no drugs.
To drugs around that time period. And so there was a point where Cassie had said that there was a time that Diddy didn't want Cassie to do drugs, even though she still was, or even though that Diddy still was. The defense says Diddy didn't want you hanging out with a certain friend. The friend's name was Bonna. Bonna is also a pretty important name into this story. I'd covered her when she had filed her civil claim against Diddy. Bonna was allegedly hung outside of a balcony by Diddy when he was going through a rage period, something that Cassie had talked about in her direct testimony to yesterday.
So do opioid make you have
the defense was trying to say, well, you and Vanna, you guys did a lot of drugs together, and Cassie at this time was saying, you know, she was doing opioids. Meanwhile, Vanna, according to Cassie, provided these drugs like opioids. Meanwhile, Vanna did cocaine, according to Cassie. Cassie had said that Diddy was pretty explosive when he found out that Cassie was taking his drugs, and Diddy had actually contacted drug dealers not to give drugs to Cassie at this point. The defense was trying to paint it out that Diddy was just worried about her health and that she was taking a lot of drugs including ketamine, GHB, MDMA, ecstasy. They talked about the Cannes Film Festival trip where Diddy had squeezed Cassie's leg so hard that a bruise appeared on her whenever she was taking pictures on red carpets, and
she needed him to do them damn freak outs
because she had taken drugs from. She had taken drugs from him. And then there was an interesting point that was talked about as in 2013.
So she stole
where the
drugs.
defense was saying that Diddy overdosed on drugs after a freak off. Diddy was hosting a party at a Playboy mansion. Cassie had to actually take him into the hospital, and that's when Cassie had learned that he had overdosed. There were a lot of points just throughout her testimony today where, again, the defense was trying to ask, do you remember when this happened? And she would respond, I don't necessarily recall.
Ain't that what Mystical in prison for?
Because you were on drugs during this period. And she was very forthcoming. You know, I did have a problem. She did try to seek out help a couple of times, and then she just kind of went back to, again, that same kind of lifestyle. But to her point during her direct testimony, she was saying that she used these drugs to cope with just having to do these hundreds and hundreds of freak offs, some that would last for days at a time, some that could last for a long period of time. But I thought it was interesting.
Ooh, I know she bow-legged.
Drug conversation today, mainly because they even discussed withdrawing from drugs, especially because of the amount of drugs that both Cassie and both Diddy were taking.
So how he gonna stop her from using drugs and he addicted? Baby, she bold. Baby, her legs is bold.
2016 was because just a few days earlier than that, Diddy was sick, and they were saying, the defense was trying to paint it as Diddy was sick because he was going through withdrawals, and that made him agitated, that made him irritated.
With a bad back.
Well, at the same point, they were trying to say Cassie was insinuating doing these freak-offs, kind of making it seem like she was asking for what had happened to her as far as just him being so aggressive and violent with her, because again, we've all seen that surveillance video, but I definitely think the defense was trying to paint it as Diddy was going through withdrawals at this point, and that's why
he wasn't going through no damn withdrawals.
Irritated, and that's why he had attacked her on that day, as something that, you know, it shocked everyone when we had seen that video. Still shocking seeing it inside that.
He was talking much noise.
They didn't show it today during the cross-examination, but they definitely were talking about the 2016 incident, especially towards the end of the day today.
Sex worker.
Yeah, I don't quite buy that one, right? The idea he was going through withdrawal kind of explains what happened in 2016. Didn't you say in the opening statement that video was indefensible? I feel like they might have stretched a little bit too much there. But look, the text messages, the conversations, communications, not ideal for a prosecution case. Not the end of the case, but not ideal for a prosecution case. So it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of how much the cross-examination helped the defense. I will say, I thought it was interesting, real quick on this, Elizabeth. Didn't they say, hey, you know how the prosecution was insinuating Diddy had all control over every aspect of her life, including her appearance? Well, the defense, didn't they suggest... No, there might have been legitimate feedback he was giving, right?
Yeah, definitely. They were trying to paint Diddy kind of talking about his stature within the industry, essentially saying that, Diddy was somebody who had a lot of reign in terms of the culture. A lot of people sought out his advice. A lot of people went to him for fashion advice. So they were trying to make it seem that, Cassie, from her perspective, was saying that Diddy controlled every single aspect and manipulated every single aspect of her entire life. Meanwhile, the defense was trying to say, look, it wasn't just you going to Diddy for fashion advice. It was other people who were interested in taking fashion advice from him because, again, of just how big his stature was at the time. They were saying that he did so much much for the culture, and that he, started a line like the Sean John line, and that was a very popular fashion line. And so the defense was, again, trying to make it seem that this wasn't manipulation. He didn't control what you...
Ooh, wee, baby.
But you would ask him, do I look good in this? What do you think of this outfit? And so, yes, to your point, Jesse, the defense was definitely trying to poke those holes into where they needed to poke them to kind of make the argument that this wasn't manipulation, this wasn't coercion, and this is something that two people just do normally in a relationship together.
Yeah.
So that brings us now to scheduling, right? So
but it wasn't supposed to be that. He was supposed to be a boss.
Tomorrow, but Judge Arun Subramanian not happy about this, right? So two things I want to end on here. Talk to us about what the whole conversation was in court about actually scheduling Cassandra Ventura's testimony. And I believe we may have an answer as to who is going to be the next witness.
Let's go.
Who is a major witness in this case. Talk to us about it.
I definitely think so. So during the lunch hour, I was talking about how the defense was saying that they needed an entire day of more cross-examination to a point that they could carry this all the way out into Monday. This was something that the government was visibly annoyed about because they were like, we had had this scheduling talks for weeks, not even just weeks, but months. And they were trying to make the argument, they being the government, that they had known all along that Cassie needed to be off the stand by the end of the week. So they didn't appreciate that the defense was trying to drag this over into Monday. And so they came up with a solution, essentially, and just that they believe that the cross-examination beginning tomorrow will take up half the day, should wrap around the lunch hour. So still a few more hours of cross-examination to go through. As far as the redirect goes, the government affirmed today that the redirect may take no more than about 30 minutes or less. And so it looks like Cassie will finally be off the stand tomorrow if everything goes as planned. You just never know sometimes with the trial how long that these things can go. But yes, another big witness is being teed up kind of as we speak, and the government asked today, do we need to bring in other witnesses tomorrow being Friday? And the judge was like, yes, get your other witnesses ready. And one of those big witnesses I can definitely say is going to be Don Richard, somebody who had filed civil claims against Diddy, somebody who had worked with Diddy for a number of years. She had worked for him for not even a number of years, for decades even. Somebody that Diddy himself, when the civil suit was filed,
Danity Kane,
essentially said that he was disappointed that she had even filed this civil claim against him. And so the prosecution said today that she would be one of the next witnesses to be testifying against Diddy. And so it'll be interesting to see kind of how that'll all play out. And so she should be one of the next witnesses if she's not directly after.
Because she was dating one of the guys from that.
And Elizabeth, I don't know if you have the answer to this. I'm not entirely sure. Is Don Richard one of the named alleged victims in this case? I say named. They're
he pimped her too.
Pseudonyms, except for Cassandra.
Okay. Now, see, you finna say, Pressure, that she'll die too, cause he pimped her out too. He passed her around for the guys, his partners, for his freak offs and stuff when he had the parties. So, yeah, cause she wanted a career. He got her, and then he passed her around. Ain't that what pimps do? They test it first, and then they sell you out. He a pimp. And he traffics. They setting him up. And there was the other one I mentioned earlier. Her name came up. Aubrey O'Day.
One of the named alleged victims in this case. I say named. They're all using pseudonyms, except for Cassandra Ventura and maybe one other. Do we know if she's one of the alleged victims in this case that makes up sex trafficking or racketeering or anything like that?
I'm not necessarily sure, and that's mainly because when the prosecution was giving their opening statements, they had talked about the alleged victims, one being Cassie, one being Jane, that we presume to be alleged victim number 2, and then they were even talking about Mia, somebody who had worked for Diddy for a while, somebody that, according to the prosecution, Diddy allegedly sexually assaulted Mia while the two had worked together because she was somebody on her staff. So I'm not entirely sure if Dawn Richard is one of the victims that have been talked about, especially in the superseding indictment. But I definitely think she'll also be a very key witness in kind of piecing together her decades-long.
She definitely said that he pimped her out,
as well as just kind of how he was, even just in a business aspect and a professional aspect as well too.
And I think she was a witness to some of the allegations of Cassandra Ventura. And if I'm right about that, that goes to further corroboration. So it's not just the security guard who testified, it's not just the male performer who testified. Now you'd have Dawn Richard, who I think I'm right? I think she had testified, I think she had alleged before that she witnessed alleged abuse of Cassie at the hands of Sean Combs.
And her daddy came to get her one time.
She did. In her civil claim, she alleged that she had seen Cassie with visible injuries on herself. She had said
her daddy came to get her one time.
Civil claim that she had just wanted Cassie to be safe. Essentially, she had said that she saw one instance where she was at Diddy's home. Cassie was cooking breakfast, and Diddy threw a hot frying pan at her head. And so I definitely think she will be another central figure in kind of verifying Cassie's claims.
Pop came to get Pop.
Not so much, I believe, about the freak-offs and that extra, but definitely as far as the physical abuse goes, I think she'll be another key witness to kind of verify Cassie's claims.
And that would make sense she didn't know about it, because what we heard today was Cassandra Ventura was not very open about these freak-offs until she ultimately filed her lawsuit. Elizabeth Milner, thank you so much. As always,
okay, y'all. I'm right at about 3 hours.
Detail by detail of what happened in that courtroom. You are our eyes and ears. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Elizabeth. You bring good details.
Thanks, Jesse.
And that is all we have for you right now here on Sub.
I'm finna repeat what he is saying. That's all I got for y'all today. Can I see y'all tomorrow? Friday, about 10, it's gonna be the first round, Oh, my nose getting red. And then 5, 6 o'clock. Well, tomorrow's Friday. Yeah, it's gonna get good. Yeah, they finna creep off into that, more into that RICO. She's already established the drugs and trafficking and stuff, traveling. Yeah. And they are not going to, nobody wants to suck. Nobody want to suck that much. Oh, baby. Ooh, I know she got lockjaw. I'm sure she had to get her teeth and, her jaw, can I get I need a new cooch. I need a new, Can y'all go and take my tonsils out? Because I know they rotten. I done had mouth sores and stuff. I don't want to suck on nothing. I don't want no lollipop. I don't want no popsicle. Well, the popsicle may help. I wasn't supposed to say that. Baby, don't you put no cough drop or nothing in your mouth, baby, because them sores and all of that, I just cannot imagine having sores and shit on my tongue and in my mouth, thrashing, ooh. Y'all listen, can I tell you what God love? He love the truth. I'd have been trying to take that nigga out. I ain't gonna even lie. I'd try to come up with a way, since folk disappear. Since he make them disappear, I'll be trying to figure out a way to make him disappear. Not disappear. Disappear. Yeah. You know what you say. Baby. I know all of this was cracked and Bless her heart. I know she was. I know she was ODing. Bless her heart. Could she eat? What was she eat? She had to suck out. She had to eat through a straw. How was she eating? That's just crazy. He evil, y'all. Oh, they just getting started. Beaver, and he breaking down. He broke too. Are they saying he was on? I had it on here, y'all. I just had too much. I wasn't. That was good though. Yeah, I know. I had old girl. Maybe tomorrow I'll play what she was saying because she said.
Sean Diddy.
He had a meltdown in court today. You know he a big old baby. He be in there having temper tantrums and shit. I wish I was a judge. I'd be saying, hey. Now if you can't conduct yourself, nigga, you ain't running nothing in my court. And if you have a problem with it, take your ass back to the jail cell. You do have a choice. Either sit there quietly or take your ratchet ass, nasty ass. You got that nasty man disease. If you can't sit in my court quietly like you got some sense because you don't run shit up in here, I will have bailiff take your ass back to your jail cell, make you take out them nice little cute clothes while you think you cute and put you right back on in that orange shit. Now what you gonna do? You have a choice. Y'all do know I would say something like that. You have a choice. You'll sit your ass there and shut up. See, I know you like abusing women, so I'm finna abuse you. And if you don't like it, take your little nasty ass on back to your jail cell, play with Bubba and them. Know what we doing? Puffy, Duffy, Dicky Wicky. Yeah, I'm laughing, baby, but I'm gonna tell you what God love. I'll be trying to take him out. I don't know what. I don't want nothing. Don't touch me. I don't want nothing. I don't want nothing to drink. I don't want nothing to eat. I don't want nothing. I wouldn't trust nothing. Folk getting pneumonia and shit. No. Oh, we would not be able to walk ever again. No. Hell, I wasn't bow-legged before. Shit. And here I am talking about been sitting all day, my ass hurt. Hell, I bet you her ass hurt, her knees hurt, her mouth hurt, the inside, her tit, all of that. And then he gonna make her kiss these on these folks. You want me to French kiss these folk? I don't know. What we doing? And it don't make no sense. Now, listen. I'm just not one of the ones that do something strange for a piece of change. If I can be honest, I'm stingy. Listen, baby, but you telling me I'm doing all this sucking and ucking and I don't get paid? I can't get what I want. I gotta go on a shopping spree. You gotta pick everything. Nigga, you wasn't bending over backwards and shit and doing cartwheels and flips and shit, sucking and he'd have hit me, wouldn't he? Now, I'll be like, let me make a phone call. Can I see my phone? Baby, listen, I be done called the hood for real. I need to use my hood pass. You know, you always got a few folk lined up that's just as ignorant as everybody else is ignorant. I would use my ignorant pass. You know, the ones I be trying to say, oh, don't do that, don't do that. Don't listen, sit down. You don't know. No, come sit down. Come on. Come holler at me. Come spend some, come. Don't go out there doing nothing crap. See, them the ones I be called. Normally I be calming their asses down. See, I be done called Pookie, Ray them. This nigga done hit me in my eye. He got me sucking and ucking. He ain't paying me. And he knock him up. No, baby. I'll use my hood pass on that ass. He'll come up missing. He'll be growing that tree. I tell him in the middle, boo. He be growing that tree outside. They done chopped his ass up and grinded him up. His ass will become fertilizer. And he got a special little old tree. And I sit out there drinking my tea, talking to my tea sippers, and hell, put a little fertilizer out there and let him grow that tree right there. They'll never find you. Lord. They will never find you. Yeah, you thought that you. You thought that you. Yeah. Yeah. You forever in my heart, but you growing that tree right there. I got my eye on you. Come home one day and the feds is out there digging up sand. They be like, oh, that's a big old tree, man. How you, yeah. What's the name of your tree? Pop, pop. Y'all, good night. Let me go. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, see, all that throwing them in the creek, in the lake, and, you know, tying them up, putting them in barrels and shit. I ain't got time for all that. Put their ass in the grinder. What? Put them in the grinder. Grind that ass right on up. Yeah. Grow you some tree. Sprinkle it all across. Ooh, you got the prettiest green grass. What type of fertilizer you use? Yeah, it's custom. It's custom, child. I ordered that from somewhere online, somewhere. It's custom. They asked me what type of, what color green I want, and I told them evergreen. And I sprinkle some here, sprinkle some there. It's just all over. Yeah. And sipping my tea. That tree named Body. Ooh, baby, and it done grew all up there. That ain't it green and pretty? Ain't it pretty? And then be like, I thought we were gonna be together forever. We are. You right there. I look at you every day. Bless her heart, Lord. Bless her heart. That tree smells like me. Here I am talking about we don't troll over here. It's the end of the day. So yeah, that's the Peabody tree. The Peabody tea. Ain't it pretty? Ain't that, baby, that's the prettiest tree on the street. V-Money, you know I ain't got no sense. Woo, baby. Tree got sores and stuff. She said her VD so bad, hell, antibiotics couldn't help her. She was too reoccurring. You got the nasty woman's disease too often. You keep it. She got herpes. Woo! Me and my tea sippers. VD, she got the nasty woman's disease. And everybody, but that's what that man said, Jordan, I guess he wasn't taking his medicine. Kind of like the syphilis used to do for a long time ago when they didn't give him penicillin or whatever, and they start getting rabid in the mind. They started losing their mind. That's why that man was up at that Trump spot trying to shoot up at folk. Said that Trump and Diddy had something going on. Now, and you know, I didn't say nothing yesterday, but y'all kind of know. You know, y'all know my, well, some of y'all kind of know my theory. And when he started talking about the Illuminatis and all of that, and Trump and all of that, AunTeaFee a lie, ship lie. Baby, a rabbit in the head. But what he was saying was the truth. He was just rabbit. He was that syphilis. Wasn't taking that medicine. He became rabbit in the head. He got them herpes and shit. Which simplex do we have? I mean, it's just shit. Don't they got 3 or 4 simplexes and shit? And he wasn't taking this medicine. He was rabbit. He was sitting there shooting and, you know, putting flags and shit on top of. He said, I don't have no money to pay my bill, but here's a flag. P. Diddy. Y'all ain't no good. Trump got that shit. Baby, listen. They don't like when you put that name. You gotta make that something, you know, they'll hide it. He got that shit. Listen, when y'all use shit, do the I upside down, do an exclamation mark. Cause they'll block it. And y'all know I can't get it. Use the explanation mark when you want to use the word shit. Yeah, he got, yeah. He gonna try to act like he ain't know nothing about no pandemic and shit, knowing good and damn well his pawpaw, his what is his great granddaddy? You are my granddaddy. Died from the Spanish flu long time ago. Yeah, that pandemic long time ago, nigga. You knew what a pandemic was. Your granddaddy died off in one. He brought that shit back from China. That Yin Yang King Han tapped him on his back, shook his hand, and sent that shit right on back with him while he was in there talking shit, looking dumb. Lord, AunTeaFee. I wasn't supposed to say that. He gonna try to act like he ain't never heard of that. Yes, you do. Your granddaddy had it. Yeah, I did a little research on you. That's why I'm looking at these folk crazy, acting like they don't know that he done been up under them tunnels and shit with that trafficking and stuff. But he's setting it up though, y'all. Ooh, he's setting it up because he know he finna pull a stunt and he know the folk is finna act a fool and he gonna give them people just right opportunity to blow my people down or send their asses to jail. He set it up. He know these rappers and shit finna try to use him and implement his name in some shit. Okay, but y'all finna go. That man, he was crazy. He was rabbit in the head. But there was some truth now in a lot of that what he was saying. I didn't watch it all. But they say he gonna be a witness. And Cassie done already confirmed that she knew him. That was a setup, y'all. That was a setup. He should have known then, old boy coming. He did that stunt how long ago? He got murder charges and all type of shit on his background. And he just been sitting. I think he really was one of the first ones that put the feds on to Diddy, even before Cassie, because he was rabbit. He was talking that shit. They thought it was crazy. He was trying to go over here, over there. He was talking in circles. They was like, okay, but what does that have to do with what happened Thursday? He brought up Rick Ross and DJ. He started naming names. He said they all gay. I done upped them all. I wasn't supposed to say that either. Y'all heard it. Okay, good people. I'm starting getting red. I'm up here laughing and clowning with y'all, but y'all do know I mean if that Trump got it won't move past Trump say let people shoot the bleach. They told our folks to drink that bleach and shit. And when he got it and he was really bad, hell, the dye wouldn't take on his hair, on his hair and shit. He was looking like a tangerine. The tan and shit wasn't none of that working. He got sick out and he started getting rabbit in the head. They had to get him a super concoction, a super duper cocktail. I thought you didn't believe in it. Yeah, you just thought it was gonna kill up all of us. It was population control. It was population control. It wasn't supposed to get him. No, because you brought it. You thought you was immune to it until it got you and almost took your ass out. Should have been quicker than that. Woo, he was close. Okay, y'all, I gotta go because you know I can go on. We got a long day tomorrow. The cross-examination. They gonna end it up. They thought they was gonna trip her up. They didn't. She done exposed a little more. Because we didn't know he did OD. He was the dope dealer. And then he telling his folk not to give her nothing else. I heard the other day everybody was, oh, that was the white lady. We didn't get a chance to listen to that. What's the Epstein had that white lady like his white madam. That was trafficking them kids. She was the groomer too. And when some of them men would be telling her that Diddy was, you know, diddling, he was touching and he was rubbing on shit, she said, "Oh, that's just Puff. That's just Diddy. Diddy will be Diddy. Diddy will be Diddy." Said everybody had a black Prada bag. Carries drugs and shit for him. But that Jonathan said they made that drug liquefied. Do y'all remember? Speaking of liquid, what did he call it? He did well, whatever drug he said. He said they moved it, they melted it down into a liquid form. Y'all know what I'm talking about? He said it the other day. When he was in that interrogation. And he said, and they move it through the charters. Y'all remember when, about 4 years ago, over there off of Overton. Is that the bottom? Down there over there by the bottom. In the cliff. Yeah. And they pulled YELLABEEZY open. Oh, y'all thought I forgot? And he had a liquid something that they thought was a drug. Y'all remember that? Do y'all remember that? And they said it was a hand sanitizer. Some lady called Diddy, itty bitty. That may be, listen, if we'd have listened to that guy, he was saying something. I think by that time my phone had died. See, this is what I'm talking about. T-Sippers, my phone was supposed to have been dead. I'm up here holding this right here, right now. Cause so I wouldn't have to let the phone die on y'all. Y'all have the nerve to be mishandling AunTeaFee when I be going above and beyond for my T-Sippers. But I think my phone had died, and he was saying something about old boy had some stuff going on right there. He done had one of them transplants, he was saying the medicine that he had to use because he had he was losing his hair. Yeah, I don't know how I can understand some of that rabbit mind, but I understood some of what he was saying. And he was saying he had some, don't say it. Don't say he had some dysfunction, some Peter dysfunctions. Yeah, he said it. The man, yeah. That Jonathan guy, hopefully when he go on the witness stand, he'll tell us that he had Peter problems. I'm gonna just say it like that. He had Peter problems. And I said in my mind, in the back part back here, where I ain't wrapped too tight. I said, that's why that nigga be over there in the corner playing with himself. I said, yeah, I believe him. He got some dysfunction. That's why he addicted. Yeah. Playing with himself and shit. That's why he can't please the females. That's why you be beating on them and stuff, because a sister gonna talk about you. What is that? If you don't get that, what? And you had the nerve to be arrogant. For real. Boy. Boy, if you don't, what? Oh, you need to be real nice. You need to be one of them nice fellas. Yeah, let me cater to you. What is that? What am I supposed to do with that? Y'all know I ain't no good. Yeah. He said he has some, yeah. I said I could see that. And you had the nerves to be arrogant and mean. Yeah, you mad and hitting on folk and shit. Yeah, that's what that man said. He said he was having missing hair problems, and the medicine that he was taking making that thing go. And now y'all telling me it's itty bitty Diddy. It's little bitty, and it go dead. Oh, what you calling my phone for? What? Baby, don't go play with somebody else. Cause you ain't gonna be killing me, putting your hand around my neck, cause I'm looking at you like what? Y'all let me go. Yep, hit the like button before you leave. Yes, indeed. See, I couldn't be a friend. And she come tell me some shit like that. That nigga hitting you and he ain't got no. I be like, girl, he wants some kitty. He might, well, if it's little like that, he might as well go on and cut it and make him a coochie. And then let him take that freak offs and shit. Since he like seeing it. And hell, you can't perform half the damn time unless you up in somebody's meat meal. I'm telling you, the way he was beating the hell out of him from behind, baby, that's who she should have been mad at. Nigga, if you can't hit it like that, like what I heard. He wants some kid. Yeah, Yeah, and and you got herpes, and you got that nasty man's disease. Man, go sit him down somewhere. Ooh, he look. He looks disgusting to me. And you're abusive, and your mama. I'm gonna leave his mama alone, cause I know some of y'all don't, baby. I'm from an era we talk about everybody. We talk about everybody. So, okay, y'all. Good night. But she look like something wrong with her too. Folks need to take their medicine. They sure looking rabbit in the head, ain't they? Good night. Peace and hair grease, baby. Tomorrow morning,